Welcome to the Wednesday, May 8th, 2014 work session of the RCS School Board. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We could have the reading of the mission statement, please.
Richmond Community Schools guides students on pathways of learning to a future of limitless possibilities.
And we could have the reading of the vision statement, please.
Richmond Community Schools, a collaborative community nurturing mind, body, and spirit to prepare students for lives of choice, purpose, and service.
Thank you. We'll start with celebration stuff, right?
President Ryan and trustees, I'm going to ask that Mr. Brett Hazelbaker, Mrs. Britt Hazelbaker is unfortunately not with us this evening, but Mr. Brett Baker, our Chief of Elementary Education, a very fine and astute gentleman and scholar himself, will be presenting tonight's honorees. Mr. Baker, the floor is yours, sir.
I'm making my emceeing debut at a school board meeting in a packed house. So our first group is going to be the RHS swimming state finalists. So if you guys want to come on with me.
Mr. Baker, I believe that Mrs. Fowler, Coach
Yeah.
Fowler, would love
Assistant
to.
Coach Fowler. But
Assistant Coach
thank
Fowler
you guys
would
for
love,
having us and for letting us share a little bit. It could be a little overkill, but these guys kind of deserve a little bit of just some time to acknowledge what they did over the season. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves and then share what race they swam or races they swam at state. But it's really important and they would say this, while there's 5 of them up here, this by no means represents what it takes, the number of swimmers it takes just to get these 5 to state. So there are other teammates that they swim with, that they're in a lane with, that they go to AM, PM practices with, that they lift with. They don't get to stand up here, but they are such a vital part to why these guys are here, and they would all say that. It's a tough sport, and so the other boys and female athletes grind with them every day. So even though they're not here, they're part of the reason why these guys are here. So these 5 swimmers represented RHS in 4 events at state, which was like one more event than we had last year at state represented. They are the 200 free relay, which was Payne, Grayson, Mason, Heine, and Owen. The 400 free relay, Grayson, Mason, Burns, Mason, Heine, and Owen. And then Owen went as an individual in the 50 free and the 100 free. Just real quick, if it's okay, alphabetically, Mason Burns. This might sound discouraging at first, but hang on. Mason Burns just broke the minute mark last year for the 100 free. So there are like little goals that swimmers set, and making under a minute is a big goal. Mason just made that like near the end of his junior year. And at sectional, he did not make it to the second day. So I say that so you will understand the work that Mason Burns put in. He was at every optional swim. He would stay late and work on starts. If you corrected his form, you better believe he was doing what you asked him to do. So Mason Burns cut almost 9 seconds in his senior year to make podium in the 100 free, the 200 free, and then go to state in a relay. So Grayson Farmer. So some people here are at the Rusty's. Grayson won an award for cross country. He came in second at sectionals at cross country and helped them win a sectional. But Grayson, he is one of the few people that I think has what I call grit. He's not only physically tough, he's mentally tough. This year last year he swam the backstroke because we needed him to, and he got us to state. And then this year he swims distance and sprints. So he was on 2 relays, and then he finished with his best time in the 200 free for sectionals and finished 3rd and podiumed and did better than he had done the year before. So Grayson. For a 50 free sprinter, so like you want to get under a minute, and then for a 50 free sprinter, every 10th of a second is really hard to knock off. And for 3 years, the 23-second mark had eluded Payne. In his last race at sectional, he was lead in the relay, and he got the 23 that he needed. So I think there were moments of weariness and, am I ever going to get that? And you got it when it counted. And he was able to help our team take that relay to state. So. I obviously know this personally. This kid, Owen, set, I think, 4 goals for himself at the beginning of the year. And one was to break 2 school records, the 50 free and the 100 free. And then he wanted to podium at state. And then he wanted to get a 22nd in the 50 free. I think if you're going to get some of those goals, he got the ones that you would want to get. So he did end up breaking, at sectionals, he broke the 50 free record. And then at state, he had a comeback swim to break the record, and 100 free. He was pretty devastated with his 50 free performance. So, and then 1 sectional in 4 events. So, I guess if you've never seen Mason compete, nobody turns it on in competition harder than Mason. And Mason is probably going to be a state qualifying shot putter. And I would love for you to tell me anyone in the state who is a shot putter and a sprint swimmer. I would like to see that person. Oh, Mason. He is like, he's not only, he swam a 22, did I write that down? 22:79. So he's not just like, he had the second fastest time on that relay. And then obviously then ended up swimming a sub 50 in the 400 free relay as well. So Mason. The last thing I'm going to say, these 3 boys went to state last year, and before we even got home from state, they were plotting what they were going to do the next year. And they never relented. So this is part of like what you guys are doing. What you give the opportunity for is for, at its very best, our schools help kids set goals and then achieve them. So this isn't just about swimming. Like, they sat down with each other on Sunday afternoons and they did it. They set goals. They put their goals on their locker. They put their goals on their phone. They did that on their own because they're learning how to do that. And so it really is a testament to their, I could brag all day. I won't, I'll stop after this. But we're so proud of the work that these kids put in and how they wanted something and they made it happen and then some. So they're going to introduce themselves. You guys know what to do, right?
Okay, I'll go first. I'm Mason Heine. I'm a junior, and I made it to state in the 2 free relay and the 4 free relay. And it kind of just summed like how it impacted was like it summed up what the whole season was for. It's kind of like you build up the whole season and you kind of want it to pay off. So I just was grateful that it did pay off and we made a state.
My name's Grayson Farmer. I'm a junior. I swam in both the relays that win, and kind of building off what Mason says, during the season, man, it gets rough. You kind of like, man, why am I here at 6 in the morning putting this work in? And then just to see it all pay off on this trip to Indy, and you're there with your friends, and it's nice to swim.
My name is Owen Fowler. I'm a junior, and I got to swim the 50, the 100 free, and then the 2 relays, like they said at state. And this season was like just great. It was really fun to swim with these guys, and like there would be times we'd all be mad at each other, but then when we got to state, and we just got to relax and stay at the creepiest Airbnb anyone it was just really fun to spend that time with those guys. So yeah.
I'm Mason Burns. I'm a senior. I swam the 400 freestyle relay, and state really impacted me because it proved that if I set my mind to a goal and I focus on that, I can be able to achieve it.
I am Payne Forrest, and I'm a senior here at Richmond High School. And I think that the most impactful thing about going to state for me was just the ability to be able to represent Richmond at state, and the ability to be able to end my senior year on such a high note.
By the way, I'm Megan Flynn. I'm the head coach. I won't take up any more of your time. I just want to say how proud I am of these guys. I'm a first-year teacher, first-year swim coach, and being able to work with such awesome people. This group, everyone else on the team, it's been an honor. So thank you so much.
Mrs. Fowler, if you don't mind coming on back.
Oh.
Great try sitting down. But trustees, questions, comments for our award-winning and state champion swimming squad?
Very impressive. Very well done. Thank you for representing us well. And I also, I saw several of you, Megan, you included, had nominations for the recipes. So it's not just us that are noticing what you're doing, but everyone else. It's kind of like, wow, okay, they're making it happen. So good job. Any other questions?
I'm wondering if you have parents or anyone with you you'd like to introduce. That would be nice, because you definitely have represented RCS well. You've represented your coaches and your teammates, but I know your parents have put a lot of probably love and time into it in sport as well.
That fella right there in the forestry green. I don't think he's ever missed anything. So it's always there to help.
So don't embarrass him.
I got it.
They won't let me speak.
She's been a huge part of this career that I've put together, like almost 12 years of it. So
We've driven a lot.
Well, and the support to the team. And another person, Gary Rodefeld, he was coached by Tiano, and he still comes and does stuff with it. So if you see him, he will hate me for saying this, but it's on video.
Yes, it is.
Get over it.
Yes, it
He's
is.
awesome. He is like a lifer. So if you see him, thank him for supporting Richmond athletics. So.
Other parents, student athletes, you want to introduce Fowler? We of course know who Fowler was.
I'll go, I guess. My dad, right back there in the black shirt. He is him and my mom, who's literally right over there. Has been like a huge support. Like they've done a lot of stuff for it, and I'm just like really grateful that they've like done all that stuff for it. Like my dad, it'll be come home after practice. It'll be like 9 at night, and it'll be like, "Oh, and what food do you need? What do I need for tomorrow? What do you need for the next day?" And like that's something when I'm like exhausted and I don't want to do anything. He's there, and then my mom, like every single day, she was on my back, telling me what to do. She was telling me how to swim, and a lot of it goes to her because she was just there, day in and day out of the pool, in the pool, just always there. So yeah.
Alright, so my dad, all parents have always been there for me, driving like hour, 2 hours to any away meet we had. And my dad put in the work for driving me to all those 6 a.m. practices, even the 5 a.m. ones.
So glad to see you get a license. That was my favorite.
My mom's been a real big part of supporting me in swimming. She dyed all of our hair for state. So, and I begged her for a month or two to give me some $400 swimsuit. When she finally got it, all she said was just swim fast.
And he did. He went to state. So
I'd like to introduce my mom. She is here tonight. They don't like it, but she would always be the person that I could count on after a long swim practice, a long day for that matter, of 2 swim practices. She'd always be at home cooking a meal, making sure I was fed, making sure I had my protein and my rice in me. So she was always great. I also want to say my dad unfortunately couldn't be here tonight, but I also want to say that he's always been the person that's driven me the most to try to succeed and try hard and always be at practice, which sometimes I do struggle with, but I always try to be there. And yeah, they're just the greatest. So.
This Coach Fowler, we
They
understand
hasn't
that.
introduced her.
yeah.
And that's what I was about to say. Coach Fowler, we're not going to ask Mr. Fowler to stand again because it seemed as if he was embarrassed when he did. But Coach Quinn, if you don't mind, do you have someone with you?
I do. My mom, she is a legend here. She's coached me, my brother, both are our seniors. Their freshman year was her final year coaching.
Waterworks.
Waterworks. Okay, she coached summers for the other ones, but she. All the seniors they would watch me do anything at practice, be like, that was Steph right there. So she is just so helpful. Everything I needed. There's so many questions of a first year coach. Wow. So anything that happened, I was like, Mommy, can you help me out here? And she came to every meet. She helped out. She ran our technology for the touchpad system and everything. So she is pretty fabulous. So
I promise to be brief. They know that I can be. So, folks have heard me say it time and again, and I'll continue to say it and shout from the top of the mountain. Humility, self-service, and resiliency. Humility, self-service, and resiliency. Your program, starting with the sacrifices the parents have made, starting with the instruction and the amazing championship coaching at the ranks of the coaching level, and then ultimately the commitment that you all as a program as a whole have made. To your point, Coach Fowler, the entire team couldn't necessarily be here to be represented, but they too share in this glory. Then to know that you all had to overcome COVID, to know that you all had to overcome some facility challenges just a year and a half ago, and I know that our swimming community remember those, but to also know that, as was referenced, you've exercised resiliency. That's the spirit of our city. We don't quit. We don't make excuses. Here in Richmond, we pull our bootstraps up, throw our hard hats on, and find a way to get it done. And you all have done just that. And Coach Quinn, the young lady next to your mother, formerly Coach Ray Wobie, also established a particular tradition there in our RHS swimming program. I know she, as the proud principal of Richmond High, are just as proud of all of you. Mrs. Brunt, I want to come and steal a picture after the round of applause to see many of you all standing there, and to know that I went to school with many of you all's parents. I share the same first name as Jean Curtis, young Heidi, to know that the tradition still goes because they too were champions. And young Fowler, if you could have seen your mother in high school, all those stories, and your father as well, I didn't know him as well, but those stories are true. So, round of applause. Thanks so much, sir.
Yeah, a bunch of this stuff. Okay.
I like you better.
Oh, you know we do. All right. We need to. There we go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Baker, the floor is to you, sir.
And next we have the RHS BPA national participants, Business Professionals of America. If you're not familiar with BPA, something I was not familiar with as a high school principal my first year, and quickly found out how awesome the group of BPA students could be. I have a son who's a freshman that I tried to talk into going into BPA this year, and he rejected me. So hopefully he watches this video and gets some insight from you guys. So can you introduce yourselves? And one by one, before you start, they're heading to Chicago May 10th through the 14th for the BPA Nationals. So I bet you're looking forward to that.
Yes. So hello, we are
RHS BPA, and like I said, we're going to nationals in Chicago. And we just like to, before we get started here, we'd like to thank you guys for having us once again. And we'd especially like to thank our advisors, Mrs. Selm and Mrs. Witham, who made us here. And they're just a huge part of this. We wouldn't be here without any of them. And they just help us through every step of the way. So we're super grateful for that. Yeah, so my name is Fred Mendenhall, and this is my third year doing EPA, third year going to nationals, and I'm going for advanced word processing and SQL database fundamentals.
Owen Peters, third year BPA student, second year going to nationals, and I'm going in fundamental web design and visual design.
I'm Lucy Couch, and this is my first year doing VPA. I'm a junior this year, and I'm doing a podcast presentation team with these next two that'll go up, and Chloe Chang, who's not here. But yeah, I'm just grateful to be here.
Avery Vandervoort. I'm a junior. It's my first year doing VPA and my first year doing nationals, and I'm in the podcast production team with Lucy.
Hi, I'm Gabriella DeMott. I'm a junior in high school. It's my first year doing BPA and my first year going to nationals for podcast production team at Lucy.
Hello, my name is Ashley Griswold. I am a sophomore, and I am going to nationals for the first time this year in medical coding.
Hi, I'm Hannah Sterling. I'm a freshman, so this will be my first year of BPA and going to nationals. I'm going individually for health research presentation, and then I'm also doing a team presentation with Lauren, which was just the presentation too.
Hi, I'm Lauren Freeman. I'm a senior, and this is my second year at BPA, but this is my first year going to nationals. And individually, I'm going in advanced desktop publishing, and then we're doing presentations.
Hi, I'm Jacob George. This is my second year in BPA. I'm currently a junior here at Richmond, and I was fortunate to win economic research individual project at state, so I'll be going to Chicago soon.
You all's sponsoring coach, Mr. Salem, is very humble and very reserved, and so we'll let her sit back there for now. But board questions, statements, comments for our BPA national.
Well, I'd say first of all, congratulations. And I wonder if one of you could, because this is televised, and someone may be thinking, well, what is BPA? We know what it stands for, but is there one of you who'd be willing to kind of give a summary of what it is?
Okay, so BPA is just a huge opportunity provider for high school students and even middle school and some college level students. And it's just a huge opportunity to get students in an environment to create careers for themselves, explore opportunities, and network with people across the country to just get their futures moving,
Thank you.
Questions, comments?
I just think it's awesome. I work in the corporate world, so you guys are all getting a leg up. And really, it's no matter what field you go in, I think all of these things will be useful. And it's great that you guys are excelling and seem very mature to be doing it at this age. So just kudos to you all. Super exciting.
What fascinates me each and every time we celebrate BPA here in the board forum is the confidence that you all exhibit and exercise when you come to not only present yourselves, but also your accomplishments, what it is that you have aspirations and goals in doing. I know that of your sponsorship of your coach with Mr. Shelms, I know that she presses that upon you all. What I'm curious to know, final question is, how many of you all have aspirations of going on to four-year university and or college? How many of you all are more willing to come back and serve in Richmond Community Schools? Darn it all, Attorney Cross, I usually get one or two. But nevertheless, again, to know that we have state championship level competitors in the extracurricular and performing arts. Also to know intellectually and on the academic side, we also have national competitors and champions in our BPA and other students. Just truly remarkable, but again, symbolic of what this spirit of Richmond Community Schools and the spirit of our city is. And so again, congratulations to you all. We're going to come take some pictures with you all, if you don't mind. Ms. Selms is going to join us for these pictures way in the back. But again, round of applause for this.
All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Here we go.
Okay.
Next on our agenda is our public commentary. Cindy, do we have anyone signed up for public commentary tonight? Okay. Our work session, Dr. Wright.
President Brunton, trustees. Before tonight are two discussion topics. The first is the Richmond Community Schools Police Department. Chief Tholes is here to share an update as to where we've been, where we are, where we're going with our corporation's police department. And I know that his fellow officers who have exercised bravery throughout the course of the year and continue to do so on a daily basis are with us to also contribute and weigh in on our discussion. And so, Chief Thole, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, sir. Greetings. It's been, I believe, the beginning of the school year the last time that I appeared before you guys with anything of an update. So it was good for me to take the time to prepare because it reminds me of all the things that keep us going as school resource officers. So that's really what I kind of want to share with you today. I'm going to ask the officers to come up here in a little bit to share some of their stories. You're not only hearing it from me, but some of you is the first I've appeared before you as board members. So as a recap, I mean, I think we can go back to just a year ago. A year ago from this moment, you had 3 school resource officers that were overseen and managed by the William County Sheriff's Department. Under their management, we were at the Richmond High School, Dennis Middle School, and CYS. The remainder of the district was covered under the grace of the Richmond Police Department. And we were challenged, or you challenged me in June. Once you created the Richmond Community Schools Police Department, you blessed me with the title of Chief of Police. And you gave the directive that if we're doing this, then day one of the 2023-2024 calendar year, we will be as operational day one as we were the last day of the previous school year under our previous method of management. So last time I appeared before you, that's what I shared with you, is that over the summer, we were able to accomplish that. Central office staff, the team that Dr. Wright put together, we were able to connect the dots, cross the T's, and do all the things we needed to do to make sure that we were acknowledged by both the state of Indiana, federal government, and everybody else that gives us the blessing to have the authority to act as law enforcement officers. We were fully outfitted. We were also blessed by Cody and Dustin to return. So you have the same returning 3 officers. And we hit day one fully uniformed, fully empowered by the state of Indiana to again cover the Richmond High School, Dennis Middle School, and CYS, and those SRO, school resource officer functions that we provide to you in those buildings. During the course of the year, some of the growth that we've seen, I mean, what have we been doing since type thing? We are, I don't want to steal the thunder from the officers, but you're going to see, the spoiler alert, we are relationship based. We all kind of share similar opinions and have read from a good book that says relationships matter. We believe that, we see that, we're trained that those relationships pay off with dividends. So we've been focusing on relationships. We've been focusing on the teams that we work with in our assigned buildings, and we've been focusing on relationships with the children that we interact with. At the end of last semester, we went through a hiring process. Law enforcement, like many other professions, are seeing a very challenging culture in the efforts to recruit and hire. I was surprised and amazed by the number of quality applicants we had during that hiring process. I take back what I said earlier. We have been before you just introduced Officer Garrett Sweet once he was hired. He kind of rose to the top, and I can tell you now, since that day I introduced you as the recommendation of the new hire, he has done a phenomenal job. He came to us certified from the state of Ohio as a law enforcement officer, and he also came from his involvement with the fire marshal's office in Ohio. We hired him anyway. We are proving that we can play nice with fire. He's been an excellent addition to the team. It challenged us as a department. The reason I kind of harp on his hiring is that allowed us to expand what your SRO services in the district have been historically doing. Now he is at test. So we are covering 4 buildings within the district now. Great movement, great growth. He challenged me as a chief of police to develop a field training program. We want to make sure we're onboarding people in a way that allows them to know the nuances of their jurisdiction, their environment, the Richmond Community Schools. We want them to know what their expectations are as an officer. He navigated that process very well. Kudos to Officer Dudley and Officer Cushing. They stood up and provided a lot of the training for Officer Garrett as he came into the fold in that field training program that we developed. Officer Garrett is currently in the process. He is duly sworn and authorized by the state of Indiana to perform the functions of a law enforcement officer in the state of Indiana. That was accomplished through a pre-basic class, but within the first year of his employment, he's required to participate in training and pass tests in order to be certified through the state of Indiana. He's in that process. He's probably mind numb at this point on criminal law and traffic law. I've been there. I know that week that I went through, and I know what he's studying right now, so I know where he's at. But he will soon pass the test and be a certified officer in the state of Indiana. So great growth in the hiring process, some of the systems we implemented to make sure we were onboarding people appropriately and introducing them to the expectations of a unique environment of being a school resource officer in the Richmond Community School. Other areas of growth I won't bore you with, but we have been able to take care of some of the behind the scenes things that happen in a police department that allow us to function. I did my first accident report in probably 8 years because I was not doing those on a regular basis when I was at the sheriff's department there at the end. But we recently have connected with the state, have the proper systems in place, and we are capable of now doing accident. Small detail, but it's growth within the department as well. Having said all of that, no particular order, but I'm going to ask each of them to come up and introduce themselves and tell you a highlight from this year. I won't say I'm nervous, but I have no idea really what they're going to say. And then after they sit down, I'll clean up later. Girls, turn off.
I just want to thank you guys for having us here and hearing what we have to say. My name is Officer Cody Dudley. I'm the full-time school resource officer at CYS at Baxter Community Youth Services. First, I just want to say thank you to these guys. I have the honor and privilege of working alongside and with such a great group. I know we're a small department, but we work really, really well together, and I really enjoy having those guys on my team. For me, there's a couple moments. There's honestly too many to share, but I wanted to pick a couple. One happened this last week. I was approached about a young man at Crestdale Elementary School who wanted to meet a real police officer. Those were his words, not mine. I found some time in our busy schedule to make my way over and meet this young man. When I got there, I found out that this youngster was wheelchair bound. I introduced myself to him. We have RCS PD stickers that look like a badge. I gave him a badge sticker. And then he alluded to me and let me know that sometimes some of his classmates make fun of him for being in a wheelchair. Trying not to get emotional about it. But so I was able to talk to him. I visited his class during their lunch period. I was able to talk to multiple students in his class and his peers and just kind of let them know. I didn't let them know that I had just met this young man, but I let him know he was a really good friend of mine, and it wasn't cool to talk about him in that way. And then during the conversations with the kids and the teacher, I found out that some students had been stealing some suckers from the teacher's stash in her desk. So when I gave this young man a badge, I kind of deemed him an honorary officer and told him to be on the lookout for any suspicious activity. And I said it in front of the classroom, so they all knew that he was on the watch for anybody who was stealing the suckers from the classroom. I don't want to take up too much time, but I did, and I don't know if you were going to talk about this or not, but I had an opportunity around Christmas time when I was doing field training with Officer Sweet that we were able to connect with another young lady and kind of pulled a little prank on her at the request of her family with Elf on a Shelf and kind of introduced the Elf on a Shelf to her home. But we did it full police style. We said we found them in Glen Miller Park and they were on the loose and they were trying to get to her house. So we made up this big story, lights and sirens, and took the Elf on the Shelf to her house. But they were very grateful, and so were we. It was a really awesome opportunity to connect with the students in our community. But as Chief Thal said, that's kind of safety and security first, obviously, of our buildings and our students and our staff. But really just a relationship building. I think if you're at any sporting event and you see us working security there, you'll see that students go out of their way to come up, to give us a fist bump or, handshake, to talk to us. And I'm sure they'll share some of those same sentiments, but it's been really cool. The transition's been pretty seamless for me from one department to another. I know Chief's put in a lot of work behind the scenes to get us operational for the school year. And we've had to kind of adapt to that. But from my military days, you just adapt and overcome. But I'm very blessed and privileged to be a part of this department and share some of those stories with you. And hopefully that continues for a really long time. Thanks.
Hello, I'm Officer Cushing. I'm not going to be as good as he is, but I do have a few things. When I was at school with Dennis and stuff, at the beginning of the year, I asked the librarian who knew that all the kids were going to go through the library and stuff, and she was going to give a presentation. She said, "Yeah, I can go in there and give a presentation," because she didn't have enough to fill up the time. So I went in there, talked about what law enforcement does, talked about fighting, bathing, and and had them ask some questions so they get a feel for what they did. I talked to the entire school that at the beginning of the year, so the 7th, 8th graders I talked to, and I think they really enjoyed it because they were able to ask questions sometimes they didn't know. Like some asked, "Hey, what if I fight back in self-defense?" And I had to remind them that Indiana doesn't really have a self-defense law. It's you hit somebody, it's illegal. So they started to understand some of those aspects of the law and stuff because they probably didn't know that. Didn't say they couldn't defend themselves, but I said it's best if they find one of the adults to help out and stuff. So, the other thing happened recently. one of the social studies teachers asked me because he knew I was part Asian, and he was doing a presentation on Japan. And I'm part Japanese, so I went in there and talked about what I knew about Japan and stuff and my heritage and stuff. And the kids asked a lot of questions. I brought in some items that I had, actually my father had, that was passed down to me from Japan. And I was able to share it with them and explain where these articles came from, how they came about and stuff. And then he asked me to come back again and talk about Korea because that's what they were talking about the next week. And I'm not really Korean, but I've been to Korea. So what I did was I told them about my experience over Korea. Because I was stationed in Korea in the Air Force, and I actually got the chance to go up to the DMZ. When I went to the DMZ, I actually brought something back. It was a piece of wire. And I was able to bring that wire and show them and let them know how dangerous certain places in the world are. And they really enjoyed that. And then later, I think a week later, another teacher asked me to actually come into her class and talk to her class about it as well. So it was just an opportunity for an SRO to, talk about the law and what we do on a day-to-day basis, but also share some other things that kids may not know about us, or show them a little bit of our diversity and stuff that we've seen throughout our lives and our experiences as well. And I wouldn't got that opportunity without the teachers asking stuff like that. And of course, not being him not placing me in that school and stuff to be able to do that. So that's all I have. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, guys, I'm here at Sweet. I am currently assigned to test. I've been there in a full-time capacity since January when I finally got uniformed and got going. But I just want to say again, thank you to Chief Falls for the opportunity. Thank you to you guys for bringing me on board. What I can say is we are making a huge impact in that school. One example, I just want to tell you, over the last couple of weeks when we do our weekend shopping, I ran across kids from 3 different stores, from Meijer, Walmart, and Kroger, who have kind of side-eyeing me like I know this guy, but I don't know how, so I'll just walk over. I'm in plain clothes, and I tell them, hey, I'm your school cop. And then the excitement, they've all given me hugs while we've done that. So I just want to say that we are out there working hard with these kids, trying to prevent some past that could turn out very negative for them, and we're working hard to represent the school district. So that's really all I have. I have stories like those guys, but you've heard a good one. So, but again, thank you.
I've had the pleasure of working on a lot of teams with some really great law enforcement officers throughout our community. And as you can see, none top the team that I get to work for now. I appreciate you guys. Great job. No, nothing I need to clean up there, obviously. School resource officer is a term that's kind of thrown around, sometimes misunderstood. We are taught through NASRO, required training by the state of Indiana, that a school resource officer serves 3 purposes. They call it the triad model. We are a law enforcement officer. We are also an educator on law enforcement related matters. And we are a mentor or an informal counselor. I think based on the stories, and I know based on my observations, that your school resource officers, and as long as I'm your chief of police, I will refer to them as school resource officers, are doing a phenomenal job in the Richmond Community Schools with the 4 buildings currently assigned. So thank you guys. Not a better way to wrap up where we're at, what we've accomplished this year than those stories. With your permission, if I can approach each of you, I want to leave you with something of a story of my own at the high school.
This is in a clever way to illustrate the tics.
Yeah, please sign at the bottom.
Admitting guilt.
Yes. No, you're right. You're right. Yeah.
I've got plenty more of these. I didn't count them, but these have been very impactful to me personally. You heard stories from the authors that get invited in the classrooms. These are cherished mementos of mine. For a person to come up and say thank you, that means something. But for somebody to take the time to write a note, thank you, means a whole lot. If you won't keep those as mementos, I will ask for them back, but you are welcome to, because I have lots of them. But they are a testament to the involvement that we are persistent in, that we need to be doing. We need to be in those classrooms. We need to be building those relationships. Those relationships allow people to feel comfortable coming to us. And information is powerful. Once we obtain that information through those relationships, we can stop things before they happen. This isn't groundbreaking news. Many of us walked these same halls as students when my father uncovered these truths that I've adopted. The relationships matter. And that's what we need to continue to focus on. And I want to say thank you to each of you for the opportunity to allow us to do that. Lastly, kind of shifting gears, before I dance with any questions that you have, is looking into the future. None of us have that crystal ball. None of us know what the future holds. We are all aware that the plans that we put in place for growth and for expectations for us as a department need to change from time to time. We are currently assessing those needed changes, and that information is constantly being shared with you to make sure that we are capable and have the resources needed to provide that service across the district to the students, staff, and guests of Richmond Community Schools. So what's that timeline? When do we grow? When do we go into more buildings than just the 4 that we're in currently? Those are difficult conversations we're going to have to continue to have. I want to pledge to you as your chief of police, as we have those difficult conversations, even if there are disagreements on how to accomplish those things, after we're done with those conversations, we will get the job done. We've proven that to you over the summer. We've proven that to you this year in the relationship building. And whatever the future holds for the Richmond Community Schools Police Department, I feel empowered to pledge to you that promise based on the 3 officers, the involvement that we've had this year. They have stepped up and knocked it out of the park. One thing that wasn't on the agenda was for me to come out of uniform for 4.5 months. Now, something I wanted to do, but when the doctor and the wife tell you have to, you have to give yourself time to heal physically from injuries. You do. And these guys stepped up to the plate, made sure we continue to cover 4 buildings, even though we had 3 officers. And they have done a phenomenal job. Again, publicly, thank you guys. I have not done performance evaluations, but publicly, you all passed. So with that, I leave that kind of open-ended on where the future is going, because we all need to have those conversations, make those determinations. But I just want you to be assured that even though sometimes my experience and my thoughts may present something that may be contrary to a perspective that you already have, let's talk it out. In the end, we'll have a consensus. We will move forward as a team. We will accomplish what the needs are for the community.
Could you talk about your badge real quick?
Oh, yeah. So month of April was Autism Awareness Month. This was shared with me through one of my resources, that there was the option. I have not seen law enforcement do. I'm sure there have been places, but I had not had that experience. So one of our vendors, the blue represents the autism awareness. You can't see from where you're at, but the center of it is normally the state seal. They replaced that with the colorful puzzle pieces. And it's been very interesting, and I know they have similar stories. I had a student walk up to me and he's and not making fun. I'm just mimicking the question that he had. Why's your bag blue? I said, well, it's for autism awareness. And he goes, I got that. And a whole lot of other things. And he walked away with the conversation. So we've had a lot of really good interaction just based around this badge. So we do it for a purpose to make sure the public's aware, knows that we interact with a lot of people on that spectrum. And we are trained to deal with people on the spectrum. So we are sensitive to people that deal with those issues. But I underestimated how many conversations that badge was going to generate.
Mr. Baker, I appreciate you posing such a question because, again, whether it be badges, whether it be uniforms, whether it be the safety and security devices that you have on your body, the Kevlar vests, the boots, the whole 9 yards, when you reference to where we have been to where we are, there's been a lot. It's been a collective. It's been a collective of our local law enforcement community. It's been a collective of our state law enforcement community. I know that Attorney Cross and members within his office have also supported the transition and the creation and development of our law enforcement department. I know that there's, again, been so much behind the scenes. Our trustees were just reintroduced to the general orders yet again here recently, and I know you've been updating those. Just that alone, the process of being able to create all of the necessities and cross the T's, dot the I's, to know that previous law enforcement administration have been in true support. Our current local law enforcement community has been exercising support. You've referenced the 4 schoolhouses that you all are stationed in and ultimately service through. We also lean on local law enforcement for supports. And so, again, kudos to each and every one of you for what it is that you continue to do bravely and courageously. It's easier said than done. As I've always said, I think in everyone's adult lifetime, they should have to complete at least 2 ride-alongs so that they really get a true sense of what it is that it means to wear that badge with such conviction and such courage. And so, with that, Board of Trustees, questions, comments for Richmond Police Department, Chief Ellis?
So we had a lot going on last summer, to say the least. So just to recap, and if I used the wrong term, operating guidelines,
general orders.
General orders.
General orders. Yes, sir.
Those are orders that are approved by your officers through you, and it's not a board approved general orders. I think, Ron, you had assessment on that.
I agree with your comment.
Okay. Because there was some discussion from the board that maybe the board needs to approve those. I don't know anything about
The board has certain discretion, but I don't think they relate necessarily in that area. I would say it's analogous to telling our school nurses how we want them to practice medicine, so to speak. But you do definitely, as a board, have areas where you can limit the jurisdiction if you so choose. And you have a role in defining their how they operate. But fundamentally, the general orders are intended to be the gap fillers, and that's certainly an area of expertise that I would not even report to. There's 600 pages plus, and I counted them, but I didn't realize.
Mr. Zaleski, if I can address it just briefly, the general orders was something that would normally slow the creation of a department down. And I don't say this in a braggadocious manner, but through the Sheriff's Department, I was the accreditation manager that managed the policies for the Wayne County Sheriff's Department. So through that, I obtained a lot of connections on how to establish and create a general orders manual. The way we adopted our process of instituting the general orders were to employ Lexapol. Lexapol provides the framework and updates necessary to make sure we are in compliance with state laws, court cases, best practices in law enforcement, and we don't lose track of those things as time goes on. So as much as that 600 and some page document was a daunting task, a lot of that framework I felt comfortable with in adopting as a best practice or a proven best practice through Lexipol and what we employ. So it gives me the confidence as the chief of police to be able to bless those and update those. I think one of the first pages, and I'm sure you at least got through the first 3 pages of it, right? It acknowledges that it's a living, breathing document, and it's so that we can do those updates when the state laws change. I go in and I change the statute based on the input from Lexington. If a best practice changes in law enforcement, we've seen a lot of that in our profession over the past decade, especially. And we change some of our policies. And then we're also able to mold the little nuances that are particular to the Richmond Community Schools Police Department. We're able to build those in that general orders manual.
But definitely based on best practices using Lexington. Equipment, you guys were up, operational, fully equipped on day one, from what I remember.
That's correct.
Is there any equipment that, man, if I had a wish list?
Absolutely.
Do I even want to know how long is the list?
We have really been focused, especially this last year. I mean, there in law enforcement, there is the need, what you have to have in order to operate and function as a law enforcement officer. I would say a bulletproof vest is a need. We would all agree with that. There are also wants. There are things that we know that makes our job a lot easier and allows us to function more efficiently. I have not even reached the want list yet because I know where we are as a department. I know where we're kind of out of the pecking order when it comes to the number of people that come before you with their hand out. And I want to focus on that need to make sure we are doing the fundamentals correctly. And you guys provided that day one. We have the fundamentals that we need. There are a few items that we're going to be talking about that I'm currently working on quotes that would be the next progression in that list of priorities. And we'll get those together, get them before for approval as that time comes.
I know one of the pieces that's been worked on over the last 6 months is the integration into the computer system with the other departments. I think that started with an MOU with the county, maybe, or
You're referencing probably Central Square.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is this shared combined information system that law enforcement in Wayne County operate in. It's a records management system that allows a department to manage their case reports. It allows us to reference known individuals and their history. It allows us to reference other departments in the community and the things that they have interacted with different people. Good resource for phone numbers, addresses when we're searching for different information. So there's a wealth of utilities in the Central Square system that our county adopted. Our sheriff's department is the overseer of that system and has to provide the blessings and the MOUs and the signatures necessary for Central Square to then interact with me at the Richmond Community Schools so that we too can be a part of the Central Square system. We had to adapt and we had to create some systems of our own. They are working wonderful, but at the same time, they're a little archaic in the world of law enforcement and management. We will become much more efficient as a department once we have created our Central Square system and been allowed into that county-wide Central Square system. Last update I have is Sheriff is waiting for a few more signatures on an MOU. I believe Attorney Cross has indicated he'll work with them on figuring out how
I've extended the offer. I don't know. I think ball's in the sheriff's court at this point.
But yeah, we are anxious on that. We're ready and anxious.
So you're saying in the interim, though, you've created your own systems that we're currently operating out of. Okay.
Correct.
But it would be great, is what I'm hearing, if we could tap into the Central Square. Okay. Okay. Thanks.
Okay, well, and what are obviously with school in session, it's hard to knock off that wish list or that goals list of things that need to be done. What the next steps over the summer of what obviously building out, getting access Central Square, building it out. What are any of those other projects that are on your
Along with the
horizon?
Central Square, and that's going to be another heavy lift over the summertime, assuming we've got the authority to start that project. I'll be working a lot with Central Square to get that system up and going again with the goal of having our officers access to that by the first of next school year. In addition to that, I said we recently, with me being, I referenced it earlier that I was out of uniform for a period of time. Allowed me to focus on a few of those wish list type things. That accident report that I referenced earlier, that was one of those things we were able to move up as a timeline. Now that I'm bound to a computer for as long as I was able to make some of the connections necessary with the state, so we were able to start doing accident reports. So training for the other officers on how to do accident reports, getting them familiar with that system. Infractions, traffic tickets, misdemeanor type arrests, those are processed in another state system. Is on the wish list of things that I hope to implement for our department. Accidents, we don't do a lot of them. Traffic enforcement, not going to do a lot of, but we still want the capabilities of doing those things in the moment if we need. Those things are sometimes great motivators for people to choose to do right on things, and we can't convince them through the normal means of conversation. And sometimes we may be able to say that a ticket is warranted. That misdemeanor arrest, the summons in lieu of incarceration that system manages for us may be an appropriate way that we would go as a department, things that we deal with. So that's another big one that's on the list. And then lastly, on that wish list is those conversations that I alluded to a minute ago about the future of the department, the growth, the breadth of what we are going to do as a police department. Something I think we all know is in our best interest to figure out this summer.
I know that, and again, I've stated it, and it goes without stating that our local law enforcement community continues to provide, supports. Richmond Police Department still has a response time of roughly a minute and a half to 2 minutes when we need them, and they vow to be there. I know that the current newly elected mayor, along with the newly appointed chief and the force there at RPD, continue to respond to our calls. So, and request along with Wayne County Sheriff's Department. I know that Mr. Baker has worked with Sheriff Redder, continue to try and address particular matters as we are evolving as a department, as Attorney Cross referenced, as Chief Tholes has shared. We do and will be arriving at particular decisions. I know that right now we are soon to be meeting yet again with the mayor along with the chief of RPD to sit down and iron out and
I think the desire is to make sure that our expectations correlate with our needs and their abilities to understand our needs and their willingness to work with us. And I have no reason to think that we have excellent cooperation during the prior administration. I have no reason to think that we won't get that same level of cooperation in due time from RPD. It's just there's a little bit of a relearning process, if you will, to re-examine our relationships and try to have it in place, the MOUs that are there, so that we're all, if you will, speaking from the same proverbial page.
So we're very grateful for all of our law enforcement community, especially our department here at the Richmond Community Schools. So again, thank you all. Any other questions?
I have just two quick things. One, I do appreciate the relationship building. I don't think some of us were talking about it. Your dad and Aaron, who's not here, were sort of like the cops that everybody knew, and people. Aaron doesn't admit he's that old, but they were the faces. Just everyone knew them when we were in high school and growing up. So I think it's very beneficial that you guys are in the buildings and can kind of try to bridge that gap. I like that kids can come up and ask you questions because, you know, just think about the misinformation they have. So I appreciate that. And then the second thing was, you know, as the school year winds down, I do think it's beneficial, and anyone else can chime in on, you know, I'd like to sort of know trends that you see and, you know, hopefully like vaping's down, but, you know, things that kind of come up, or if you guys can correlate some information that you see with certain age groups or in buildings, that would help us, you know, when we look at policies or we look at, you know, or you guys see, hey, I think this is, you know, trending up and might be a problem. I think that would be very beneficial for, you know, us to see. But I think that probably correlates as you are working out, you know, what are we doing in the next 1 year? What are we doing in 3 years? That type of thing. But, you know, that was just my.
And I know from experiences that the longer data set you have, the better those trends can be determined. Right now, we're in the midst of our first data set. So trends would still be difficult to determine. But we can definitely do that. I know last year I prepared an end of the year report. This year I will learn and incorporate some of those types of requests into those end of the year reports so that you know the interactions that we're having on that law enforcement front. And I know back to the Central Square piece, once that's in place, that data search is a lot easier.
Right.
But in the interim, we'll do the work and we'll have it.
Perfect. Yeah.
Kim, I think that's a great idea, just to try to get, you know, if you guys have your fingers on the pulse, so to speak, please, we want to hear about it. You know, if you're seeing something that we need to be concerned about, we want to know about it. Yeah.
And I think it can be informal too, like a certain level of, you know, if some of your officers are starting to see the same thing, I don't want it to seem like you need to prepare some big, you know, report for us. But if you, I know you're probably meeting with Dr. Wright of like, oh, yeah, we're seeing this. I think that's just good to know too, and then we can dig in if we need to. But
one thing I can say that's kind of been a change over this last school year. You know that your administration in the buildings that we've been involved in has changed in different buildings. And I won't speak for them, but at the same time, I'm up here, so I won't speak for them. Our information that we share, we have a weekly meeting. They keep me updated. I keep them updated on things. We are seeing in the most recent past, the administrations that we work with, I work with the Richmond High School administration, and I'll match them against any administration in the world. They are phenomenal. And they all have the same opinion. So we argue about that a little bit. So the consistency in your administrations right now and their ability to handle discipline that we don't need to be involved in, that keeps it from elevating to the point that we need to be involved in, is something I've recently made notice of. We've talked about that is working.
And Chief, I appreciate that, because that's a testament to what it is that we as central office leaders and our building level leaders have been in conversation about. I'm going to put this, of course, you all will be active and physical and present, but the more that our administrative protocols allow you all to be break if necessary, break glass if necessary, metaphorically speaking, I think the better. And I think that's what it is that you all are starting to pay more witness to, is our administrative protocol revisions, and those will only continue to improve and get better, because as our principals, as you mentioned, the pride they take in their schools, the pride that y'all take, and understand safety and security is paramount. With that being said, of what Member Pickering referenced, and it was your father, and Aaron Stevens, and Officer Laguerre, and Officer French, and Officer Vance Middlesworth, and some of the other DARE officers, Officer Gordon, and Officer Tim Davis, we remiss if we didn't mention. It's neat to think that when we were growing up, those were the images, and now it's you all. And so with that, Officer Dudley, I apologize not putting you on the spot, but I'm going to send our board the photograph of you and the young man that you pay a visit to. And again, this is what it's all about. When it comes to education, when it comes to the service that you are providing, it's those relationships, and it's being proactive and preemptive so as to educate our students so that when they do see you in the store, Officer Sweet, they have a second or third to think, whoa, what do you do? You actually shop in the grocery store? Don't you live in the school? I'm sure you get that like we used to. But again, kudos, congratulations, and thank you for what it is that you continue to do. Yes, thank you. With that, President Broughton and trustees, I'm now going to ask that Mr. Brent Baker introduce the uh, next amazing faculty, staff, and administrators, educators, and leaders throughout our corporation for the Wisdom Freedom Project. Mr. Baker.
Well, I'm trying to get my, there it is. So here tonight I have Steve Jones and Cheryl Searles and Cole Vandervoort and Tracy Lovett and Melissa Jordan, all elementary principals and coaches here who have been a part of the reading adoption process. And I've got several different documents pulled up here, but we've gone through the reading adoption process. The state gave us 6 vendors to choose from related to the science of reading. I have a little timeline here. In December, we started learning about the upcoming requirements for the science of reading. December to February, we talked with reps of companies we anticipated we would that would be approved for the science of reading vendor list. And in February, the TOE released the master list of all the vendors. And then in March, we started visiting schools that were using the vendors that we were interested in. And then that led to April, where they presented at Charles and Dennis for all of the K through 8 teachers. Then we held a vote through Google, and it wouldn't be dramatic and thrilling if the vote of 75 teachers didn't come out to 50.7% for one curriculum and 49.3% for the other curriculum. Yep. And so that is kind of how we got to this point today. But I wanted to bring these principals and coaches here to answer any questions. They've been diving much more deeper into this than I have. I've said all along to the people, the teachers and the coaches, I am not an elementary reading teacher. I didn't teach elementary reading. I taught 5th grade math and science. And for me to stick my nose into that and sway a vote or put my 2 cents into it wouldn't be appropriate. So I've just been there to support them and to help Cynthia Kirk guide this adoption along. So
that's the beauty of a work session, is that it's inclusive and engaging. That's why I can break from that and direct my attention to you all and invite you to come and join us here on the dais. Our amazing leaders and instructional coaches, see, they were bargaining for this. They didn't realize that these open seats have been names on them. And so please come and join. Have a seat here, and we will.
we decided Tracy would be the best rep.
I bet we did.
She is probably the best eloquent speaker.
Was that what it is? Yes. Feel free, ladies. Good morning.
Like, you literally want me to like sit right there?
That's the work session is designed to do just that. Yes.
Hey.
I'm her support person.
Yes.
You put up all over your, I'm gonna pick up your briefcase here and just.
Yeah.
We'll stand closer.
Oh no, feel free to see wherever. Honestly, yes.
You got an errand to see.
So this
could be the whole here.
This was discussed. Reading adoption was discussed at every Friday coaches meeting. I should feel like about a year. Yeah, months. Yes, it was a long process to get us where we are today.
So can you all just maybe describe and share with us some of those processes and a Cliff Notes version as to how we got to this point?
Okay. It's probably gonna be.
once the list was narrowed, we had already done some background work, so we knew what was coming. We knew who had applied to the state for adoption and approval. So once we kind of narrowed that down, and then once we officially got the list in, I think it was January 26th to be exact, and it was just 5 curriculum companies, and one of the companies had 2 curriculums. So really, and they pushed us towards just 1. So that brought us down to 4. And then from there, we knew that we wanted a knowledge building curriculum. So we could start pulling in some content, science and social studies, and bring more of a focus to some nonfiction and knowledge building work. So that pushed us towards Wit and Wisdom and CKLA. And then from there, we started diving into actually opening up the curriculum, looking at what teachers would be teaching, what the content would be, and what the lessons looked like, what the design for teachers would be. And then we went to go do the school visits and got more information that way. Spoke to the teachers that were using it and the principals that were using it. And from there, we had some PD sessions within our schools. So each coach created PDs. I'm nervous and my voice is shaking. Sorry. But so we put together some PD for our buildings. And one Tuesday we went through CKLA, and one Tuesday we went through Wit and Wisdom. And then from there we kind of waited until the 2 representatives came and presented to all of us. Then Tess needed to do the same, Dennis needed to do the same. So that kind of pushed us off, and they all got to put a vote in and give their say. And that's how we came to that really difficult, nearly 50-50 split.
And during that time, the teachers had, shake your voice. The teachers had access to both curriculum platforms so that they were able to dig in and really look at their current grade level and how it would fit into what their current practices are. And we have several teachers who are already being trained for science of reading, and we relied a lot on them to be able to say, okay, these are some of the things in science of reading that we are, thank you, that we are already seeing in these different curriculums. So.
Yeah, that was one of the easy things about between CKLA and Wit and Wisdom is that both curriculums we felt like did a fine job of bringing in phonics, which was the big missing link in balanced literacy, frankly, but in all of what we have been doing. So both of them really did a nice job pulling in phonics. It's a big missing link.
And the PD that was presented by the coaches, it was really important for them to be unbiased so that the teachers were able to make their own decisions. So it was more of a presentation of these are the things that are available and just kind of walking through a typical lesson. Not really a pros and cons. The teachers created that. And each session was, they collected what are the things you like, what are the things you're not not happy about, and what questions do you still have? And then the coaches were able, we took that list back, and the coaches were able to kind of dig in more and be able to answer those questions for people.
I think one of the hardest things here for us was to remain neutral, for the coaches to remain neutral. And if you go back to when we were kids, if you were sick, you went to the doctor. Now, if something's wrong with you, look it up on the internet, and then you're dying or whatever's going on. Well, now there are all of these groups who are fans of Wit and Wisdom or fans of CKLA who want to tell you all the negatives about the other company or the other brand. And so that jaded, I think, some of the people's thought processes where some of the things that they were reading weren't necessarily true. A few things that were posted, because when the teachers voted, they just didn't choose one or the other. They put entered the research that they had put in and why they were choosing the curriculum that they were choosing. But a couple things here. One person said, I think there are pros and cons to both options. Another teacher said, really, I'm not completely sold on either program. However, I know I'll be able to make either work. I like the components of both programs. Another teacher said, honestly, I think RCS teachers are capable of making either curriculum work well. And then another one said, regardless of what we choose, this is probably the most common one. I'm eager to dig in because it's going to be a challenge and exciting. So I know the teachers are ready to get their hands on.
Yes, very much so.
So I am kind of curious as far as with this being like a 50-50 breakdown, was it by building? You know, like everybody at Vail loved, Wisdom, and everybody at Charles loved
got this
CKLA.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, how did that? Oh, okay. So
There
maybe
was
you
some
guys
of that. So there was some of that.
Okay. Or was it like within a building?
I think it
Looked
was,
at it.
there was some by building, but
Okay.
a lot of, like, one of the things we need to look at is the number of people who actually voted per building. Because there are some buildings that went one way,
Okay.
but there were like 2 people that voted.
One
So,
building was one person, one building was 2 people.
Okay.
And then there also were people who felt like they really didn't know enough, and they were going to trust kind of the people who did.
Yeah.
You know, so
Okay.
and I kind of appreciated that rather than just vote to vote.
Yeah. Right.
We did have 2 buildings vote 100%. 3 buildings vote 100% CKLA, but that was a total of 12 teachers.
Gotcha.
We had 2 buildings vote right about 90% for Wisdom, and then like Fairview was 50-50 right down right on the top. So
I think the good news is that we're gonna have champions in it, in each building. So.
We did look at it in different ways. We looked at it by building. We broke it up by grade level. Like what did teachers look at by grade level? And then we also looked at 3 different views. Oh, total, just straight numbers.
And then my follow-up questions kind of, so what does that look like as far as buy-in? You know, if you've got half that are like against, or I voted
How are you
for
gonna
the
get them on
other.
board?
I think the biggest buy-in and change is kind of one of those things as the state's pushing us to choose a curriculum that they've approved or not approved. So that buy-in piece is like, we know we have to do it, and these are the missing components that everyone knew about ahead of time. So I don't think the buy-in piece is gonna be as difficult because we know these are the components that are missing, and now we're getting them in a curriculum. Now, all of the content pieces that we have, Franklin Elementary School, if you get to teach science and social studies as a part of your day, it's like, great, we made it. That means everything else went really great. These are embedded in that curriculum now. So I feel like those are the pieces that people are a little more like, oh, I don't know as much about this as I think I need to deliver to my students. So I think that is going to force teachers to grow in that area too, which is exciting. We want them to grow too.
I did ask coaches at our last meeting, like, could I be so bold as to go and say that even though we are at a 50-50 split, do each of us as individuals feel like we can take this into our building in a very positive way and move forward without any resistance? Or there are going to be some that feel very passionately about CKLA, or we wouldn't be at 50%. But every coach there felt like it was going to be easy to overcome that we were going to be able to move forward, because both curriculums, as far as instructional practice goes, they're both solid. Yes, they
And
are.
it's pretty much exactly what happened with math. Our math was split 50-50 too. And
It sure was.
So I mean, it's almost identical. So when you have a bunch of teachers voting, you're going to have difference of opinion. And they're very similar in the knowledge base. So I think the coaches felt like we really couldn't lose with whatever. So
But I think it's really also about what Mrs. Lucas has referenced, to know that as instructional coaches, they feel confident that you can champion such a proposal. To know that, as was referenced, there's trust that's found and felt. Not only this curriculum instruction piece, but also just trust amongst colleagues, the legal trust. And so just share with me, because that wasn't always the case, as we know. And anyone in education can share with you when you have such proposals and differing viewpoints, it can create tension, to say the least. We have experienced that here within the short period of time which I've been at the helm. But I know that with intentionality, with collaboration and sustainability, found in another framework that we just adopted not long ago, is also allowing us to explore as a professional learning organization, as professional learning communities within your own schoolhouses. Explore the opportunity, or at least the idea of trust and trusting in one another as fellow educators. Can you all just speak to that trust, speak to the culture and climate found within your schoolhouses that is allowing for such a dive into such a subject? I know that Mrs. Vandervoort shared with our board not long ago. You all were tuning in, I think, to a work session or to a board meeting not long ago. Mrs. Vandervoort had shared some correspondence that you all collectively have put together, which was shared with our board and much appreciated. Can you just speak to the culture and climate that you're finding within your respective schoolhouses when it comes to curriculum instruction overall?
Yes. So in our cluster, which is a part of the NIET framework, we have cluster every week, and so we've already started. We're excited. We're just anticipating that it's going to get approved, and we're going to move forward with Wit and Wisdom tonight. So we started with our cluster work, just kind of dipping in, like what will that mean for us next year? What changes will be coming? So we're trying to start the prep work even now because we have digital access to everything. So if we can get teachers comfy now and at least kind of mentally thinking forward to what's coming, there's a process there for those who, really wanted CKLA. There's going to be a process there. And if we can start thinking forward to Wit and Wisdom, then when we come back in August, we'll have a better mindset and ready to begin. So we're just kind of looking at Wit and Wisdom is laid out into 4 modules. Every grade level has 4 modules. So we're just looking at that first module and starting to think forward about what do we need to think about as we prepare for August. And that's that. We're not even at the end of May yet, and we're already thinking about August.
And that's the proactive approach. You think about it. You talk to any classroom teacher, and they'll tell you that if I can proactively have the opportunity to purposefully plan and have the time to do so, then magic can happen. Very much what Chief Falls was referencing during his presentation as far as just that proactivity. And so, what else? Just from a culture and climate standpoint, what have you noticed that had been different? What's the different feel in your respective buildings?
I think most of, like in our building, most people are just wanting to be able to, like they wanted to know what it's going to be and just to get that comfort. And they're very anxious about what kind of training they're going to get because they know that whatever we do, the training will be what makes it work, and then the support that we can give them. So.
Our recent, our kind of end of the year wrap up with our NIET coaches that are coming from NIET to come, they've already laid out some best practices about rolling out curriculum with us. So with the work already done in cluster, there's already a platform to make sure that transition is smooth. And we know anytime you pick a new curriculum, you're going to have to work through pieces. You're going to do it all. You're going to work through the pieces that are most impactful the quickest and the most important pieces first. So I think teachers are less worried about which one. It's just the instructional practices are going to change so much, but we already have a platform in which to give good professional development for teachers too.
We are in a good place because we have established the coaches as instructional leaders, and teachers are used to them modeling things and bringing them quality instruction and being in their classrooms to support. And so they trust their coaches and they know that if they're struggling, they have a direct person to go to. And I know, as being a former coach, I know they're going to work all summer to make sure that they know the curriculum better than anybody, so that I'm sure even we as principals will be going, hey, wait a minute. But that established relationship that they already have with the coach, the coaching cycles, and having them brought to them and training them as a partnership, not just somebody from the outside coming in, training and leaving. We have them here day to day, living it, breathing it with them, so that they feel. I think that the teachers are, whatever program we're diving into, they're not alone. They have the support. So that puts us in a pretty good spot.
I think it's also really important, and you may all be wondering, like, what was it that tips the scales for us, like, as far as thinking, okay, it's going to be what. There are three things about Wit and Wisdom that I believe set it apart from CKLA, and that is number one, the writing integration. It's just tucked so nicely and beautifully right in. You don't need a separate writing time, and like a 40-minute time block for writing. It's just embedded right in with the reading, and that's just a beautiful thing. So, and that's really appealing, not just to me, but to the teachers who are actually putting it into practice. The other thing is the implementation of geodes, which is there are books that go with each grade level, with each module, that also continue to build the content. And there are 6 copy sets. So, and it is the application piece of the phonics work that students would be doing during that skill work time. So the geodes are decodable text. That's going to be our challenge, is moving away from level text. If you're really familiar with what we've been doing, we're moving away from that level text, moving into decodable. And the geodes provide that nice little bridge between the skill work and the content. So that was a nice piece. And then the other thing was that the deep dive into the module. So there's only 4. So you can kind of think of that like quarterly modules, and you're doing a really deep dive into, like, for example, 4th grade, their first curriculum or their first module is on the heart. So they're going to be looking at the heart physically and having a strong heart figuratively. So there'll be a quarterly long unit and really do some in-depth learning there. So that was appealing. Those were the 3 things that really kind of pushed it away from CKLA, for me anyway.
I have a question. Just from a pure number standpoint, because it was so close, did every teacher that it might impact or was eligible to have a vote, did they get to vote and actually vote?
They did not all choose.
They did not all choose to vote. Gotcha.
Part of the issue we run into with that, and Mr. Baker did a phenomenal job with through history here, that some of the teachers have been around for a while. I've only been here 5 years, but that when they've adopted a new series, it's the teachers took that attitude. Well, doesn't matter what we vote for because they've already decided downtown. And Brent, I mean, every time he's like, nothing's been decided. I mean, you get to the point where it's like, if I got to pull this car over again, it's, so I mean, and he did a phenomenal job because he made it clear nothing's been decided. You guys are the ones teaching it. You guys need to decide.
So it's still given to them. They just continuously chose not to.
Yeah. So I think some of them, it just, they're like, well, it doesn't matter what I vote for. It's going to, go. So we that's where I think you saw low votes. But I think in the end, as Tracy just hinted, is that we did choose the one that was a bit stronger, I think. And, my professional opinion is a bit stronger.
All 6 elementaries at their PD gave time to again dive into it, and then gave them the link for this survey, and gave them time to do the survey there if they wanted. So I mean,
seems pretty fair.
There was not a chance that they
one vote difference, basically. I mean, it just.
I think a lot of the teachers that chose not to vote,
they weren't sure.
Either just weren't sure yet and are just going to trust the people who have been really digging in, or felt like they could make either one work.
Yeah, and you deal with these reps on my end, and you build relationships with them, and the rep for CKLA, his name's John Lash. He's about as good of as a rep as you're gonna find. And so for me to have to call him and let him know that we were going, with another company, that's hard.
Tell him how close it was?
I told him it was close. We talked for about 20 minutes this morning. And so, yeah, if it were based on me and what rep I like the most, I mean, I probably would go with John, but that's not what I'm doing. So,
We haven't voted yet.
Well, that's why I asked the question. With that being that close, it seemed like a low voter turnout, so to speak. So, was there thought to giving hey, it's this close? What's your opinion?
Well, you gotta remember this is just K through 4 teachers, and then reading teachers 5 through 8.
Sure.
So 75 of them is quite a few.
Okay.
So
Well, and I think being elementary and things, and you guys can say some things, I think teachers would much rather have a decision made at this point so that they can get into whatever curriculum it is, so that they can prepare for August, than drag it out more and maybe push it into summer or
Sure.
later and not have the curriculum they need.
Yeah, I think, I mean, every one of the elementary schools, and I mean, I won't speak on behalf of all, but I mean, we may have a different philosophy going into, what we're looking at for next year. Because, I mean, I know Tracy and Nicole already started looking at, next year and curriculum wise. I mean, I got to find two solid teachers. And, I find the good teachers, I'm gonna let the big dogs eat and get out of their way. And we're gonna be ready. I mean, because we're awesome. But it's one of those things that we're gonna be ready to go when it comes down to it. So it's, I mean, we have different philosophies, but we're all going towards the same, same goal. So
I stay next to you.
Go Charles. How does Wit and Wisdom sort of keep current and updating? Like I know the standard of what they're doing is the same, but do they talk about, sort of updating content? How often do they do that? I think about topics sort of in the content. Do they give detail around that at all?
There are two places. One of them was in second grade. I think, yes, it was. There was one in second grade, one in fourth grade, where there was an update given there, and it was due to some content there that they wanted adjusted. So those two grade levels specifically, I know of, there was an adaptation made. I don't know how recent that adaptation was. But
It's not like current events though.
right.
But
Yeah,
the
right.
history and the science is kind of intertwined into that reading curriculum.
Yeah. Okay.
Which is very important to us.
Right.
I mean, I appreciate all the work and having spoken with some people individually, I'm totally confident in the situation. I guess, and I assume both are about the same cost. I'm having a hard time swallowing the shipping expense. And I don't know if we have other options. I think, I mean, we could rent a longer. We could literally hire local movers to pick up the material at a much significant savings. And I don't know how much flexibility there is in that. But and I know it's just a fixed cost. I'm guessing both fixed costs are about the same for the program. But that just is outrageous.
That's a lot. Is there any wiggle room on that? I mean, could
I can tell you, I wish this wasn't being recorded, but I can tell you that I felt like I was like leading a turn up here with this company trying to weasel them down to a number. And I don't know if they inflated the shipping on me while I was doing that.
Tell them how close CCAL is. Say CCAL. They're like, no.
Yeah.
Can we pick it up? I mean, is that an option?
I will definitely work on it.
Where are they located? Where's the
I think Pennsylvania was the
Those numbers are
location.
semi.
I'm good on the road trip.
Yeah, their payments go to Pittsburgh. But I can definitely find out about that.
It would, I don't know if it impacts it in any way, but just kind of be aware that obviously all schools in Indiana right now are under the same time crunch that we're in. And so they're all putting in their orders to these publishing companies that are going to be under tremendous pressure to get all these published and out by August. So I just don't want to get too far behind and placing our own order.
Well, I'd even say have them cut it down and we'll still go pick it up.
Well, so I will call tomorrow.
I mean, it's hard to swallow.
Yeah, really hard to swallow. I will call tomorrow and talk with the rep. Yep. And I will let you know that.
Can you ask them the size of the shipment too? If I'm looking through and it's hard to sort of quantify what that is.
Pallet count or
right? Is it a pallet? Is it
no? I would say probably it's gonna be a semi trailer.
right? Like that, I think is important to know too. Like what is the actual amount they're shipping, weight wise or pallet wise or whatever that is.
Moved a lot of junk for Richmond. Here's the price to find out.
And I think we could probably still vote and pass on this with the understanding that that research is gonna be done, and if at all possible.
I would not place the order, without having a resolution to that. Like, we can go ahead and pass it if you wish, but I would keep Doug right up to date.
Absolutely.
I know that the business is important with wisdom, and we've talked about money several times, because the whole thing is hard for me to swallow. So,
Yeah.
I mean, they've been
$5 is hard for me to swallow.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I'll work on it though.
That would have been the business move to.
That's what I do in my business.
What was the cost difference between the two programs? Just out of curiosity.
About $100,000.
So the shit.
Yeah.
And so with that, we definitely will exercise due diligence and we can come back with our findings to see what that six-figure number is all entails. But what I will also say, as was mentioned, and just to reiterate, one of the things that I have talked about from a visionary perspective is systemic alignment. Systemic alignment is a fight, and it's the first time, as has been mentioned, in roughly 30 years, so it's been reported, that our K through 8 curriculum and instruction from a reading standpoint has been aligned. And what that's going to do as our students are transitioning from kindergarten through 8th grade and our multiple schoolhouses, it's only going to allow for sustainability, consistency, and overall student treatment, competency, and learning naturally. So this is remarkable.
Yeah, and I will, in full transparency, I've gotten their price down about $250,000. So, how much more I can get? I'll work on it.
Most confident.
So with the state potentially requiring the remediation for kids not passing the iRead, is there components to this that is specific curriculum remediation for those kids? Or whether that is over the summer or how
So this is the core reading curriculum. Anything that you want to add for remediation, this goes across the board for all of the companies. They are going to provide funding for schools in the cadre, the literacy cadre, for funding for programs to help meet the needs of our struggling readers. But this is just our core reading program, what every kid would use. Could you pull some things out of here and work with students that maybe didn't pass iRead? Probably, but we would probably use a grant for some of those programs.
I was just trying to figure out if this includes that. So.
I'm assuming that the lessons have a differentiation module or something that can say struggling readers or highly able readers. Is that something that's provided in the lessons, or is it just here's for all
This is
tier
a
one?
very different approach than what we've been used to based on what science of reading is telling us.
Okay.
It is very much whole group, grade level text. We are incorporating a 40-minute time for some differentiation that we feel like is just super vital, that we're going to continue to call success time. But as far as the curriculum goes itself, it is very much whole group, grade level text, same text, and grappling with that material and moving away from that design of teaching to the bottom instead of kind of pressing us to the top. It's just a different mindset. I think we're gonna have some tension there that we're gonna deal with and fight through. Yeah, but we'll be okay.
So acting from a school district, we didn't use that when I was an elementary school principal, and it was super important that all of our students K through 5 got grade level reading instruction. We didn't pull students out for small group reading during the reading block. We didn't pull kids off grade 180 during the reading block. All of our students got grade level reading instruction every day. And we were a school system about 70% free and reduced. And there's a massive difference in what our IREAD scores and iLearn scores show compared to what we're doing right now. And so I have strong belief in the grade level reading text. In order to get a kid to read grade level, they have to have grade level text provided to them.
One other thing. First of all, thank you. Thank you for all of your work. I mean, it's a huge amount of work, and it sounds like you really integrated and try to get teacher feedback and try to hear from everyone and educate. So appreciate everyone for that. Nicole and I had the opportunity at Fairview to visit in a Orton Gillingham, or not class, but see a lesson. And I know that was integral, important because the phonics lacking in. Now, so are we keeping with the Orton Gillingham? Because I know it's super important for dyslexic students too, the #1 learning disability, and we're seeing a rise in that in students. And so, or does this new curriculum cover everything we need for phonics, or what's our path for that?
Great question. And we're not going to leave IMSE behind. We're going to keep everything that we've learned in place and just add to it.
Okay.
So with foundations, that's the skills part or piece of Wit and Wisdom. The foundations program will support all of our best practices when it comes to dyslexia.
Okay.
So it won't necessarily be the Orton Gillingham program. We've been trained through IMSE. It will not be that. So we're just going to learn some new techniques to teach the same kinds of things. But there will definitely be a focus on best practices for our dyslexic students, for sure.
And I can't recommend that our teachers use foundations and geos enough because it's really expensive. It is really expensive.
And what this curriculum does is bring all these pieces together where we were just always trying to settle.
Yes.
Never really was all together, integrated. So that's a big draw from this curriculum, which again is a piece that the state requires regardless of what curriculum you choose the state.
And that's exciting for our teachers too. They have expressed that, particularly at our primary level, they're excited about filling in the hole with all of that phonics work in a systematic way and having, the whole foundations program right there for them to work through. And then the application of the geodes and then adding in the content with Wit and Wisdom and the writing. It's just really a holistic piece of curriculum. So there's some excitement there with the things we're pulling in for science from the side, research from the science and reading.
Well, I think again, I promise I a little bit this. It just speaks to the culture and climate that's found within our schoolhouses, our corporation, when you can have such trust and such ability to move and mind in the same direction. And it's kudos to you all as building up leaders, as instructor coaches, as elevated level leaders throughout the buildings, and ultimately teachers being able to again collaborate, come together for common goals, students and student achievement. So,
I don't want to pretend like it's perfect. There's going to be some tension there,
oh yeah.
but it's going to be for the good.
That's right. So with that, I think Mr. Baker has a particular recommendation that he'd like to propose to the board.
Yeah, it's our recommendation that we move forward with the adoption of Wit and Wisdom as presented, and I will work on the shipping costs tomorrow. Let's talk about how much it is to rent someone.
Less than what was quoted.
Guaranteed.
So,
Yeah, I was gonna say. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll move that we approve the Wit and Wisdom reading curriculum.
I second that.
We know you're
I'm sorry, I'm sitting at the table, I got carried away.
I have a motion by Snowles.
I'll second.
Second by Orson Pickering. Questions or comments?
I want to just say thank you. Well, John, no, thank you. This it's a long process. We see the work that you put in, and so I just want to say thank you for all the extra effort and time and for serving. Excited. Well, that's a lot. Yes, John.
Yeah, I'm fully supportive of the program. I don't know that approving it tonight, I don't know that what does our bargaining position. I mean, I don't know if we want to approve a number not to exceed, knock 50 grand off that shipping, and go that route. And then they can, I don't know if that's a good number or not, but it's better than the number they quoted.
Are they watching this meeting? Can you just say that?
But if we approve it for as it's written, I think
why would they change it?
Right. Well, they know. I'm just saying, like, if he goes
Can't
and
a lot of
says,
people watch.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, if he goes, says like, hey, we really want to,
Right.
I guess our dialogue was saying it's with the understanding that this will be addressed.
But if we approved it for $980,000, then that's
why would they?
Because they don't get a vote again. So if we
So we
say,
change our motion.
if we say we approve it for up to $930,000,
would we not approve it if the shipping?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know why somebody would have an invoice look like that. I mean, it creates this exact situation.
It's 2 weeks change.
Is 2 weeks is rough. Everybody's adopting. The whole state is adopting. Trying to get professional development scheduled. Trying to get our folks here. That makes me nervous. I almost wish I could step off and get a little rep. If you come back to this a little bit.
Can we do this?
Yes.
Yeah. Table this and come back to this. We'll move on to items.
I know you guys want it. I do.
No, I think it's good. I think it's
We can pay for another teacher with the same.
Financial ones.
Yeah.
If you're making this big
I mean, I
decision.
could put another person in the class.
Right. I understand. So I think it's good if you can try to make that call now, and then we just no one's.
Where is the dollar figure coming from? Education, I assume.
It's all from the textbook, the state's textbook. Adoption fund, the $160 per kid that they're providing.
We know what's in that fund today, just out of curiosity.
Well, Brent, we're willing to approve right now with $0 shipping. So we're sitting here waiting.
As we're waiting on Mr. Baker to come back to the conversation, round of applause. Thank you again for joining us here. Mr. Jones, yes, sir, I'm sorry.
I mean, Mr. Weber, you brought up, a really, really good point. I mean, I just asked Melissa, why couldn't we hire a moving company to go out? Because they'll do it for less. $100,000. Holy cow! That's crazy. I'm sorry. I don't spend a lot of money, so that's crazy. So I don't know why that wouldn't be an option.
I know people can call right now.
I got a Suburban. I'm
gonna be more than happy to pick it up for us.
we do mini buses. It's Pittsburgh. That's great sandwiches, so we can go ahead and get some sandwiches.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for having us.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna move on to 5.01 consent items. Dr. Wright.
President Stolz, trustees, I come before you this evening to ask for approval of consent items found within 5.01 human resources report as presented.
Need a motion to approve the consent item as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Board Member Stoltz and a second by Zaleski. Questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion passes 6-0. Action item 6.0, Dr. Wright.
President Brunton, trustees, prior to moving to action items, I'm going to just simply state that with your approval of the human resource report, Richmond Community Schools just hired its next head football coach, Coach Marcus Calvert. And I know that with Ms. Wolpe here in the audience, having worked with Coach Calvert, who has been an educator with us for some time, She, along with the search team that found Coach Calvert to be the players of choice, are excited. We all are excited as to what this next chapter for Richmond football will bring. And so again, we congratulate Coach Calvert. With that being said, action items 6.01 through 6.04 will be presented by Mrs. Karen Scalf, who is joining us virtually, as you can see on the screen. And hopefully, Mrs. Scalf, you can hear us. We see that you're muted right now. But Mrs. Scalf, I am going to turn the floor over to you virtually. Mrs. Scalf, 6.01.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight before you are a number of resolutions. Can you hear me? Am I good?
We can hear you. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. It's kind of loud here. Things are really, old. And so I apologize if there's like background noise. But the resolutions before you for 6.01, 6.02, and 6.03 are regarding the 2024 bond issuance. The first resolution is the resolution determining need for projects. Alongside this resolution, there is a spreadsheet that provides another look at the 2024 bond projects. We have presented on all of these projects earlier at the bond hearing that we had a number of weeks ago. The only difference is these have been changed to a different format, and that is for not only the benefit of our board members, but also for our public to understand those things that we'll be tackling first. And then where we are looking to coordinate projects, trying to make sure that things are timed appropriately in order to get them done within the mechanisms of the bond that we would have. So what I will say is this project planning spreadsheet is a fluid document. It is live and active. We find out new information as we do bid specifications. So the individualized areas may shift around just a little bit as we are getting more information. But this is the information that we have right now. What I will also note is there are categories that are a little bit different than the original categories that the board saw, in that some of those areas that are district are really shown as a district in the spreadsheet. So even though we may know that we may do a portion of it at a specific building, or we plan to, depending on how long those projects work together, those on this sheet are shown as district because they are like projects in type, and that's for the benefit of bidding. We can usually plan projects better if we know what all we're going to do in that relative nature of project. So with that, that is available. It is on board docs. The one thing is I will read through the resolution, and then we will continue from there. So for 6.01, it's resolution number 2405-1. It's the resolution determining the need for projects. And it's whereas an investigation has been conducted by the Board of School Trustees, the Board of Richmond Community Schools, in parentheses, School Corporation, with respect to the 24-25 projects consisting of the renovation and improvements to school facilities, including safety, security, and energy efficiency projects, site work and athletic improvements, and the potential purchase of real estate, equipment, and technology known as projects, and leasing all or a portion of the project from Richmond Multi-School Building Corporation, the Building Corporation, and whereas the board now finds that a need exists for the projects and that the school corporation cannot provide the necessary funds to pay the cost of the projects required to meet such need, and whereas it is deemed desirable to proceed with the necessary negotiations and all other steps looking forward toward the financing of the projects by the building corporation and the lease such to the corporation, now therefore be it resolved that a need exists for the projects and that the projects cannot be funded from sufficient funds available to the school corporation, and that this board proceed to take such steps as may be necessary to secure the projects and leasing of such school as provided by Indiana Code Title 20, Article 47, Chapter 3. It is my recommendation tonight that the Board of School Trustees pass this resolution as it's been presented.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion by member Selesky and a second by member Stoltz. Questions or comments?
Yes.
So this, I just want to make sure I understand. So this resolution is just, is it formality for all of the projects as a whole? Is that basically?
You're finding there's a need that cannot be funded. You're not prioritizing the respective needs among the projects.
Got it.
That I thought might be a point of confusion, because you only have part of the puzzle. And we really, when we see what the bids are, that'll be the somber. We don't hope it's somber, but that'll be the point of reanalysis.
Yeah.
So that kind of falls into my question. So we've seen this list for a while now, and I guess I have problems with that priority level of individual projects, and I've expressed that in emails to the rest of the board. I don't know when we have those discussions, if those are board discussions or if this is just presented as is and we're to take it as presented. I think we have more needs than asphalt being a high level priority. And I would like to, I don't know if we have that discussion now or we have it another time or it's already happened and I missed it. But I have a lot of concerns of how we prioritize these projects. Being on the board for as long as I have, there's been things we've talked about for a long time, and they just seem to kind of either not be in the list at all or low level or not the level I think they belong. So I don't know if someone on board can help me, because I just don't know what to do, because we offer input and then it's just, that's what we present. This was your chance, or that was your chance, and maybe that's so, but nothing's ever changed.
I guess for me, Karen mentioned that this is fluid, so I think we should have these conversations. And it looks like the priority level high, all of those most of them have come in and been bidded, and that's the actual quote. And my remembering is we discussed, or Karen discussed, asphalt, and any extra money was kind of going to that. So that was moving the number and how much could be done and the need for that. But I mean, based on how much our bond is, I would think we're going to be able to do the high and moderate. Is there another project, I guess, that you want to discuss that's not on here, or one that you feel like needs bumped up? Or I think we can have those discussions.
I mean, I put in my email, I expressed my order. I think the restrooms at the high school, we talked about that for a long time in the Tiernan Center. I think that it's been in the vernacular for a while. I think that's important. I think STEAM, I guess there was a note, is just kind of tabled and things at Hibbard. I guess I sort of understand that, but what money is left for STEAM in the future, I don't know. I think the tennis courts, I think, is a top priority, and it's listed as the middle. And then I spoke to Miss Wolpe, and I truly don't understand $1 million for lockers at the high school. If I had $1 million to give this corporation, and this corporation said, thanks, we're going to put new lockers in, I would be sick. Of all the needs we have and all the things our students have, it's a nice to have. That'd be great. I would love it. But of all the things, it's just hard for me to swallow. And so I'm fine with the HVAC, the roofs. I mean, the maintenance type things that has to be done. But some of these discretionary ones, I don't get. And I think that we've never really said no at the board level. So maybe everybody else is fine with it. And if that's the will of the board, that's the will of the board. But that's not where I want to invest my money. Need or not. I mean, that's a want. That's a nice to. Everything else is done. Let's do this now. I mean, new lockers. I mean, I don't get it. But when we've talked about tennis courts, almost my entire time on the board, And every year we put $20,000 to $40,000 in resurfacing, or every other year, and we get another 2 years. And we've talked about moving them, and then we've talked about the big one that never made the list, and we're late to the game because there was claims they didn't. Is the VOTEC uh, um, home economics stuff at Dennis? When we did that change, tested it, we said we are choosing Dennis as a building for a number of reasons. But one of them was because there's more space to add additional programming, such as traditional shop classes and home economics classes, as well as language. I mean, that was one of the things, and I don't know if that just has fallen. I mean, there's been lots of changes, and it's fine. But I think those things, those type of classes do a number of things that the community is asking for, the board has interest in. I think it's good for kids. I think it's creative thinking. It's build materials. It's problem solving. I mean, I think all those adult skills that we keep talking about, that's where those skills are learned in those hands-on classes. And so, and I don't know if that can be shoved in this bond project or not, but the only reason we didn't do them then is because we didn't have any money. But now we have some money, and those have been moved to the side, which is maybe fine. I just, I guess that's my overexcited take on it.
Appreciate your input.
Well, I think, just from my point of view, yeah, like when we talk about lockers, and I know when we originally were going through this, it was on the list and there was a need. But then I think when we get the priority, and lockers are high because they've already been started, I know I didn't know that they'd already been ordered and started. Before we really, I know the board probably got their hands on what should be prioritized. So then that causes concern as we start working down the list of, are we going to have money? If we had an unlimited supply, because I know we identified all of these things, right? And it was a certain dollar amount. And to know that we might run out before we even get to the bottom is where I think, like you're saying, John, we really just need to reprioritize potentially, or make sure that we're all okay with how it is. And I think I had mentioned about some's timing, right? We're getting ready to go into summer. It's do it now or you have to wait a year. Totally fine. I think, adding a footnote to that, if we don't do it in this time frame, it gets pushed. Just to sort of, understand here and there. But I have a fear about getting to the end and then we don't have, you know, early learning center, right? I want to put money into that, but we get there and we don't have that $150,000 because taxable, the bids came in high and we'd already started. Whatever it is, I think that's where it just makes me nervous a little bit on, yes, actually having some input and truly knowing what stage they're in, so that we can be prepared.
And I think that's one of the things that, as Mrs. Robinson has been mentioned, the fluidity that's found within these processes. To Mr. Weber's point, and it's a great point as to the vocational education pursuit, and that's one of the things we'll continue as far as our executive session conversation. But knowing that we have a principal returning for a third year at Dennis School, and knowing that the cultural climate of that schoolhouse has gone through a transformative process to receive now the approach when it comes to curriculum instruction revisions. I know that Mrs. Cooper, I know that our Central Office leadership team, we've had conversations as to how we're going to approach not only the vocational education, but also introducing CTE, extending those options from RHS to Dennis to again trying to create that vertical population. As far as the lockers, I know that what we unfortunately dealt with the flood a few years ago, last year. Yeah, so 2 semesters ago. I know that trying to bring the high school back up par and also take advantage of some of the options so that that are presented. I think that, but overall there is fluidity, and to Ms. Member Pickering's reference, getting some clarity.
So it sounds like the vocational concept has not fallen by the wayside.
No,
It is
not at all.
still very much in the works.
Absolutely.
So, like, would that be something we would be seeing at some point on this list, or is that separate, or what?
If I can speak just for a minute, there is an area on there that says classroom improvements.
Okay.
That can be for things like that, but we have to be very conscientious of what all that may mean equipment. That may need to look a little different on the thing. But it can help with some of those things that might be needed on the setting up classroom side. So I think that we have to think about that part with a little bit of and broad stroke isn't the right word, but that's a classroom improvement that would possibly fall under that category. But there are other discussions on the curricular side that have to happen as to what that looks like. And so I think that's what Dr. Wright is alluding to as far as some of those next steps.
And I think the other caveat, Mrs. Scalf, is that we also will soon be receiving the assessment from administrative assistants who we've been partnering with to not only survey our community at large, but also report back to us their findings when it comes to some of those conversations that have been centered around grade level, grade alignment, and other aspects to their research. And I think their recommendations may provide a wrinkle here or there, which will potentially impact this prioritization list as it currently sits.
Any other questions or comments?
So is a resolution a blessing of the projects as presented?
It's not a blessing of the priorities.
No, and I think that's unfortunate because I think that's going to be a point of confusion. It's unnecessary. I mean, I would have absolutely no problem if you put relocated, reconstructed tennis courts cost to be determined, because those numbers, generally speaking, are not solid numbers. We may have some quotes in some of the things, but the thing you'll got to look at is that to really be able to intelligently analyze that, we're going to have to incur some engineering design expenses so that we can bid that. But that would be, I mean, if that is, if the sense of the board is that there are other projects that ought to be included in the need, then, the priorities will be determined when you see what the cost of those projects are, and that you've only got a bucket of this big bucket, but it's not endless. And I don't know what discussions you've had on the projects other than the ones I've heard at public meetings. And,
Yes.
and I think we've always said it's fluid.
Yes. This document is simply for reference. It is fluid, but it still is the same information that has been shared in previous pieces. I believe in prior meetings, the board did ask for our thoughts on priority, and that's what this is. So I am not saying that it has to stay exactly like this, but we're doing everything we can to provide the board and the public with as much information regarding this bond issuance and the projects involved as possible. So that's what this document is.
Okay, so now that, it's been established, the resolution and the bond project, prioritization are not married. They are separate, so to speak. Go ahead, did you?
Yeah, but I think, in all fairness, you're going to, you've adopted a project resolution. So there needs to be compatibility with that, because
right.
You'll be adopting that project.
But to John's point, to kind of double down on that, what are our opportunities to give input regarding the board's desire as far as prioritization? Because it sounds like Karen is saying, okay, this isn't, set in stone, but what are our opportunities? Right here, or?
Yeah, I'm wondering if it should be just a brainstorming, no, we have these categories now, your projects are kind of grouped together by what it is, and we can't really go outside of that. But like Karen's saying, the interior or classroom design, I think it is important to have that session wherever we do it. Like to John's point, to really like just throw out those things that I know you guys have been on board much longer that you've been talking about, so we don't forget them, and then see if those can be sort of fit in. But I think that sort of brainstorming, like just to make sure that we've thrown it all out on the table, and that everyone is thought through. And you know, this list might not look exactly the same after you do that, but it's the fact of just going through it now that we're here. Because for me, we've been like this with these, of trying to remember what we talked about. You know, we see it, we've got the information, but I think now we're here. It's, you know, the way I'm trying to think of it is, yeah.
It sounds like we need a work session, maybe our next work session could be looking at the priority level of these and having Karen explain. I remember back in January when they, you know, her and Jamie recommended this, just hearing again why asphalt, like what is it?
Right.
I'm not sure I remember.
Well, and if there is something that is currently listed as low, and we're like, actually, we want that to be high, I mean, it would be nice to have opportunities.
When I think,
Yeah.
and I think for sure, first and foremost, to answer that question, I think we could hold a work session. I think to remember Pickering's point and what's been referenced, and I think Mrs. Scalf alluded to it, when Mrs. Bolzer and Mrs. Scalf and Attorney Gross and the representatives, when they all came before us some time ago, I know that there was a request that we provided our prioritization list based on our in the field experience and assessment. And I think right now this is the phase, if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong, that yes, now it's time to solidify and put things in concrete. But unless Attorney Cross or Mr. Scott, hopefully you heard what I just said. I'm not sure if I misspoke or.
No, I think once it was decided to go to a controlled project, I think that gave us a lot more flexibility because it was going to give the taxpayers a lot more opportunity for input. We still have to maintain some semblance of relationship to the project resolution that you passed in March, but that was very broad, and I think that's fine. I can't help but believe that, you know, the priorities will be determined by the numbers you get. We may end up having to put it out for bids, and hopefully it wouldn't happen. But if we had a crisis in the Middle East, that affected oil supply, and suddenly those asphalt projects, you know, may not be the priority that they appear to be now. They may have to wait till prices come back into normal if they ever do.
And so again, as was mentioned, that was one of the things that was requested of us, is to provide you all with our prioritization list. And I think we've done such. And so if it is a work session and or I'm not sure if we could hold such conversation in exec session or during our next business meeting, you can.
And it would need to be a work session. You don't have to have public input, but that's probably.
Yeah. Something that we can also revisit your views next business meeting too.
No, thanks. I mean, yeah, to John's point, it would be nice to just keep our fingers in this because it's huge, you know.
Karen, is there a way to tell on your spreadsheet which projects have begun or underway?
Yeah, well, I can run down them real quick too.
Or if you could
So-
add that in the future would be fine too, just so.
Yeah, absolutely. So the only ones that have begun is the turf and the lockers and the library art room roof.
Okay.
The one thing that I just want to mention is that are in that high priority that aren't visual, and so they're about environmental comfort in classrooms and like HVAC or like those items as well as roof. Those are very priority based, and then the other things are good quotes. Those are all marked when they are good quotes, and that is simply because we saw the need and we wanted to make sure that we knew what that cost was. That some of those items were even before I knew we were considering a bond because they were important and priority as we looked ahead. So I will say the tennis courts are high priority, but there are things that we have to coordinate with them that you will see like in purple that we want to do it right at the right time. And I do believe that will take additional conversation because there will have to be decisions made on what that looks like in the track. So
Karen,
we'll
I get a little nervous when I hear the word quote because I'm used to dealing with the statutory terms. I mean, when you say quote, we have actually let private things for bid that had to be bid.
Correct. So the items that had to be bid were bid.
Okay.
The items that were under the threshold statutorily are quoted. And like example, the PA system, that's a quote. That's not a bid because it wasn't enough to substantiate a bid. There are items that may qualify under the state QPA bid. So those items were bid by another agency, but they were bid. And so those items over that state threshold are actual bids. And those are amounts that are solidified already.
Great. Any other questions or comments? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion passes 6-0.
Okay, moving on to action item 6.02, the resolution approving the form of the lease. This is a document that is required with a leasehold bond as what we are doing. And with that, it is a rather lengthy resolution, so I'll read it fairly quickly. It is resolution number 2405-2. It's a resolution approving form of lease. Whereas the Richmond Multi-School Building Corporation, the building corporation has previously been organized pursuant to the Indiana Nonprofit Corporation Act of 1991 for the purpose of constructing, renovating, and improving facilities for the use of the Richmond Community Schools, the school corporation. And whereas the attorney for the building corporation has drafted and submitted a proposed lease agreement, the lease, for a portion of the David W. Dennis Intermediate School building, the lease premises. And whereas preliminary plans and estimates, collectively the documents for the completion of the lease premises have been prepared, and whereas the documents have been submitted to and now meet the approval of this board of school trustees, the board, and whereas such documents have been marked to indicate the work covered by the proposed lease, and whereas it now appears this board that the preliminary documents provide the necessary facilities for the students of the school corporation, and that the proposed lease with the building corporation provides a fair and reasonable rental. And whereas by statute, the building corporation is required to own the real estate to be leased to the school corporation, and the school corporation is required to have the value of the real estate determined by appointed appraisers. Now therefore, be it resolved that the terms and conditions of the proposed form of lease and the documents are provided and agreed to as the basis for a hearing as required by law, and that the such hearing should be held by this board upon necessity for the execution of such lease. And whereas the lease rental provided therein is a fair and reasonable rent for the proposed building prior to final determination of such questions, so that this board may determine whether to execute such lease as now written or as modified. Be it further resolved that the secretary of the board is authorized and directed to publish a notice of such hearing as required by law. Be it therefore further resolved that the council for the school corporation or the superintendent of the school corporation is authorized and directed to select 3 appraisers to appraise the lease premises and to petition the Wayne Circuit Court to obtain an order approving the appraisal pursuant to Indiana Code 20-47-3. Be it further resolved, any officers of the board are authorized to execute a deed and sell the real estate at a price not less than that fixed by the court. It is my recommendation that this resolution be approved as presented.
I move that we approve the resolution approving the form of the lease.
Second.
I have a motion by board member Stones, a second by Zaleski. Questions or comments? Karen, you read that really fast. Thank you. That's my comment. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Vote passes 6-0.
Okay, moving to 6.03, resolution number 2504-3, the resolution reapproving building corporation. Whereas Richmond Multi-School Building Corporation, the building corporation, has been formed as a not-for-profit corporation to assist in financing, renovating, constructing, and improving facilities within the Richmond Community Schools, the school corporation. Now therefore, be it resolved by the school board of trustees, the board of the school corporation as follows. Section 1. It is hereby determined to be proper and in the public interest of the citizens of the school corporation to reapprove the incorporation of the building corporation, known and designated as the Richmond Multi-School Building Corporation, for the purpose of financing, renovating, construction, and equipping certain school facilities and leasing, same to this school corporation. Section 2, that the articles of incorporation and bylaws of the building corporation previously presented to the board are hereby reapproved. Section 3, but providing for the financing, renovating, construction, and equipping of such school facilities for the corporation and the leasing of same to this school corporation is in the public interest of the citizens of this school corporation. And it is a proper public purpose for which this board agrees to cooperate with the building corporation and to assist it in fulfilling requirements of all agencies of the federal, state, and local governments. Section 4. That the issuance, sale, and delivery of the building corporation of one or more series of bonds designated Richmond Multi-School Building ad valorem tax first mortgage bonds, series 2024, or such other name or series as designated, determined at the time of sale. The bonds in the aggregate principal amount not to exceed $19,050,000 is hereby approved. Section 5. That upon the redemption of retirement of the bonds, the school corporation will accept from the building corporation title to such school facilities free and clear of any and all liens and encumbrances thereon. Section 6. That this board hereby reapproves the current directors of the building corporation. Section 7, that the building corporation may issue, sell, and deliver the bonds pursuant to the applicable laws of the state of Indiana, may encumber any real property or equipment acquired by it for the purpose of financing, the construction and equipping of such school facilities, and may enter into contracts for the sale of bonds and the construction and acquisition of such school facilities. My recommendation that this resolution be passed as presented.
Thank you. I move to accept this resolution.
Second.
A motion by board member Schultz, a second by board member Zaleski. Questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Nay. Vote passes 6-0.
All right, 6.04 is the RHS Library Roof Agreement with Channel and Sons Inc. The bid for the RHS Library Roof rebid was awarded April 10, 2024. The award accepted the base bid of $335,000 and alternate one in the amount of $233,000, totaling $568,000 for the bid. The contingency has been written into the agreement of 10% of the project costs, or $56,800. The total amount of the agreement is $624,800. Contingency funds will not be expended unless change orders become necessary. It has in the past been practiced to put contingency funds into the contracts. That was not our practice recently, and we have found it to be something that we would like to go back to, as it does provide the budgetary allocation to already know that that contingency is there should it be needed, and there's no surprises at that point. So tonight before you is an agreement with RCS and Channel and Sons Inc. for the library roof rebid project at RHS. Work will begin this summer and should be completed at the time school begins or shortly thereafter. It's my recommendation that this evening the board approve the agreement as presented.
Where did this come in versus projection?
We had to rebid the project because it came in too low the first time.
Correct.
They had the wrong square footage. This came in exactly where we projected. We had originally projected at about 650,000. So we are right where we thought we would be.
Move for approval.
I'll say.
I have a motion by board member Zaleski, a second by board member Brand. Questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Vote passes 6-0.
Thank you, Mrs. Scow. Appreciate your participation and engagement virtually, and definitely reading through those resolutions with efficiency and effectiveness. For action item 6.05, Skills USA Overnight, I'm going to ask that Chief of Education, Elementary Education, Mr. Brent Baker, rejoin the dais. Mr. Brent Hazel Baker, the floor is yours, sir.
It is recommended the Board of Trustees approve the Richmond High School Skills USA overnight field trip as presented. Richmond High School CTE, EMT, and fire rescue students advance from a state competition to compete at the national contest. Competition will take place in Atlanta, Georgia. The dates of the competition are June 24th through June 28th, and there's no cost to the students as it is paid out of the Skills USA account. Thank you for your consideration.
I move that we accept the Skills USA overnight.
Second.
I have a motion by Board Member Stoltz, a second by Board Member Pickering. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Oh, sorry. Yeah, good luck. Yes.
I think it's just rather remarkable of the students that we acknowledged and celebrated earlier during the work session, and to also know that yet again another national caliber talented program. Great things, great time to be a Red Devil. It's a place where everyone belongs. So.
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Vote passes 6-0.
President Broughton, trustees, for action item 6.06, appointments. I come before you to seek approval for the following recommendations. That Melissa Swafford, interim chief financial officer, be appointed school treasurer for Richmond Community Schools for the period of April 29th, 2024 through June 30th of 2024. That Mrs. Karen Scout be appointed deputy treasurer for Richmond Community Schools for the period of April 29th, 2024 through June 30th of 2024. That the Board of School Trustees appoint the following persons as representatives for Richmond Community Schools authorized to open and tabulate bids. Dr. Curtis Wright, superintendent. Ms. Melissa Swafford, interim chief financial officer. Mr. Alex Hazelbaker, technology director, and Ms. Karen Scout, chief operations officer, as presented.
I move that we accept the appointments.
I'd like to move the table. We can.
Okay, and can you talk about why?
I just have some questions.
Okay. I guess
If I don't get a second,
Yeah.
know,
Okay, so we have a motion. Well, I think Nicole's motion came first. Do we need to? Or do we want to go with John? Okay, John, I guess we'll go with yours. You have a motion to table this. Okay,
Yes.
I need a second for that.
Second.
So I have a motion to table this appointment from board member Weber and a second by Zaleski. Questions or comments?
The only question I would have
Is it a table time certain or?
Would we have to appoint a treasurer?
We have a deputy currently treasurer. Correct?
Currently standing, our deputy treasurer, yes, Ms. Melissa Swafford, as it currently stands. Do we need a treasurer, or can that, will that be
She can serve
sufficient?
she can serve on a temporary basis as the deputy because she is as the treasurer because she is the deputy.
In looking at state statute, I know that the treasurer has to be, but it can be a deputy as well, is what I understand.
Well, that's why we appoint the deputy so they can act in the absence of the
school treasurer.
Of the treasurer.
Gotcha. So, okay.
We're talking a temporary time period anyways, until
right
2 months.
Yes. Yeah.
So is this going to then come back on at the next board meeting, or is it tabled indefinitely?
But I think that'd be fine. I mean, besides the questions. I just look yours personal.
And to know that again, we are in the clear with Ms. Swafford as deputy treasurer until we bring it back.
Yeah, I mean, if she's appointed deputy now, I'm assuming she's got a bond for that position because it would have been a bonded position. So I don't think there's going to be any difference in the bonding risk. So we'll verify that with our carrier just to make sure.
And to know that we, it's not necessarily a treasurer moving forward. I think it's something that we need.
So is there any undue pressure put on Melissa with everything coming up with the bond issuance, is that something you foresee? Okay.
Not that I can think of.
Like workload wise is what I'm talking
I
about.
mean, in the event that Mr. Swafford can't serve in that capacity, I think what we have to then come back together as a board and then appoint someone to, would that be like an emergency session if necessary?
So this leaves us without a plan B, a backup, right?
This is a 2-month plan that you're proposing.
Yes.
Just
We have a meeting in 2 weeks, right?
But if in 2 weeks we can bring it back, then just understanding and knowing that in the event that Mr. Swafford is not able to serve, which again, don't know how long would, but we then would have to come back and formally let the emergency meeting to appoint the new person.
All right. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor of tabling this for 2 weeks, is what I'm hearing, 2 weeks, is signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. I'm a nay. So I'm gonna poll, I guess I don't need a poll. So the vote passes 5-1. I think can we go back? Are we?
Yep, I have
Yeah.
some answers for you.
I know, I felt bad Tracy left.
She knows.
Okay,
She
oh,
knows
good,
I have
okay, good.
to tell her she's gonna happily.
Okay.
Okay, so the original quote for shipping was $100,000. The fee for us to pick it up ourselves is $33,000, not including the shipping, just us doing
The handling.
Yes.
Well, I mean, that's a lot of heavy looks, right?
The quote from the other company was $65,000 for shipping, and the Wit Wisdom got it to 66. They said they can't go lower than 66 without taking it to finance tomorrow and another business day.
Wait, so that was 66,000 total, so they're able to bring
Go
it
from
down.
100 to 66. The other company was 65. For us to pick it up on our own, just the handling is 33,000.
So we would save 33,000 if we figured out our own.
Now they still charge us 33,000 for
Right.
them
Yeah,
to
but
load
it's
it,
about
but
33.
But we would still save
we say,
33,000.
well, yeah, save 32.
All right, so we can approve it, and then if you can get a quote from Munger tomorrow to find out what, if their bid is 10,000 to go pick it up, then we're at 43,000 shipping. We can do either or, right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to tell them if we want to pick it up. So yeah,
And we could approve it at the 66. You could approve it at the 66, pending me trying to get it cheaper.
I mean, I would just call it low. I mean, go crazy, but every $10,000 you can save is $10,000.
I agree.
Do you want to make that motion? Or, well, the motion's on the. I will retract my original motion because it was for as it stands. You see what I mean? So I will retract my original motion to accept the Wit and Wisdom reading curriculum as it stands.
So I need a new motion.
Well, I think you need a consent of the second. Who's second?
Yeah, so
Sorry.
Or did we get to that point?
you
Both did.
Second.
We did Pickering actually seconded it.
Yeah, so I have to second that.
Okay.
Second.
That's fine.
I retract my second.
Okay, so both of you have retracted your,
Now you're ready for a new motion.
thank you.
John, you want to do the honors?
Yes.
You're the one that was the great cat.
Just not to exceed, or just.
I would say just it's nice 979,107 down to 935,107. I mean, it's right around. Okay, it could be
Not to exceed $932,000.
930. I say 936.
Okay,
Because that's $900 more than my math shows me. I don't want to be over it.
Move to accept Wit and Wisdom reading curriculum at a cost not to exceed $936,000, and we'll seek for our own transportation bid. Save some money.
I'll second that.
Good. Have a motion by members Weber, second by member Stoltz. Questions or comments?
Do we know how much was in textbook refund. Out of curiosity.
I do not have that figure at this juncture. So, yes.
Right, something like that.
Then this
May or may not be correct.
This is quote within the available funds. I think let's.
Well, we're gonna get funding from the state. Once we purchase, the state is going to fund you textbook rental because parents no longer pay that fee. So the state is paying. They say up to about $160 a student, but they still haven't given us that number to the TEDs.
Okay. And this is a 1-year contract, correct? 6-year contract. Okay. And just wasn't clear in their quote on how the year.
And it's front loaded. It's much more expensive the first year because we have to buy those geos and foundations kits, and then it goes to about $30 a student per year after this year.
Any other questions or comments?
I mean, just a general comment. I think, so the state's giving us $160 for textbooks. Last I recall, we were like at 250-ish range for textbooks for kids. I don't know where we're at, but I mean, that's obviously a shortfall that the district is picking up out of the education fund. So just something to kind of, I don't know if those numbers are still accurate, but they're ballpark, just something to be aware of.
Yeah, so we are 100% aware of that, and we are trying to be very frugal in terms of when we adopt and what we adopt, and I think the companies are doing the same, minus their shipping costs.
So, to answer your question, Mr. Zaleski, Mr. Scalp is still tuning in. I believe she is still with us virtually. Can't see her, but what she stated is that there is $1,065,942.37 in the debt to cover the cost of.
Could you repeat that number?
Sorry. Yes, ma'am, not a problem. $1,065,942.37 in the textbook fund to cover the cost of it.
And another, piece of bright news is, I think we bought our last laptops with ESSER money. And I don't know that we really have ever had an ongoing great replacement plan for that. But that's an expense that we're halfway through again. So.
It's a fun fact.
Yep. I'm full.
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0. We will add policy review and updates.
And before we start, we can group them together. I wasn't here last meeting, so I don't know how you did it. I just still have the one open question on policy, our number 708, policy 8640, if text was an acceptable method of written communication.
It is, yes, sir.
Okay. I mean, I thought but it still wasn't 100% clear. And
Verbally, no, but text can serve as that.
So you verbally say to the coach, I want to bring my kid home. And he says, send me a text. You text your coach, and then all right, so just the right, that is real life. So I'm glad our policy reflects real life.
I do think, if I can say this now, in the policy committee, we were talking about the platforms the coaches use to communicate with the kids, and each coach kind of uses something different. And with the social media policies sort of coming down, if we decide to adopt one sort of thing for coaching or for the athletic department, I think Ms. Scalp and Ms. Full sort of talked about some of the departments, communicate on Facebook messaging, and we were talking about if they're allowed to use social media during work hours, and there's sort of all these other things that go around it. As a parent, it would be nice to sort of try to adopt something as a coach platform. I know coaches might cringe at that, but in regards to policies like this, then communication is going through, one platform, whatever it is.
Does Parent Square work for for the athletics too?
Yes, Parent Square works. It logs all the conversations, and we asked last year that the coaches use Parent Square to communicate with parents. So there was one common piece of
That would
communication.
be great.
Yeah, and so that allows teachers to be able to communicate with students. It logs everything in there. There is no, hey, this person sent me this message, or they didn't send me this message. Or hey, this person didn't reach out to me. It's all logged right there.
Right.
But they don't.
Right.
Well, I mean, I don't know which stores
They
do.
do too.
I know the
Yeah.
ones.
That's one of those areas, especially not systemic alignment. That's one of those areas with systemic alignment that will become an expectation. We'll share that as we move forward. Because and I know that this came up during our working group, but just to not only also provide the protections for our faculty and staff on the extracurricular side and academic side, but also those protections for students. It's absolutely makes sense.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Since we're hoping to group all these together. Any other policies? Yes. Continue to thank the policy working group, Kevin, Aaron, who's not here for your hard work. I appreciate you. I'm looking for a motion to group all of these together for a second reading. So moved.
Second.
Motion by Board Member Stoltz, a second by Board Member Brand. Any other additional questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Vote passes 6-0. Board discussions. I have a few items. First, I wanted to just say publicly that if someone is considering running for school board, that the ISBA offers a free webinar. And I know that deadline is coming up on May 21st. If you're interested, that window opens and it closes June 20th. But the ISBA-ind.org is a website where you can check out that free webinar that just talks about if you're thinking about becoming a school board member, what that would entail, what the steps are for that. So they have many options open for that free webinar. That'd be great. I wanted to mention that Dr. Wright sent an update yesterday, an RCS update that featured the high school students, and I thought it was just a really great. If the public hasn't seen it and haven't watched the video, it really highlights what Richmond High School can offer and has to offer. It really focuses on students and their needs, the different clubs and the diversity there, and so many great things. And I thought it was a great video. So thank you. Wanted to mention that board members attended the ISBA legislative meeting recently. It was immediately after our last meeting, which was fantastic, just to get some legal updates and find out what new bills have passed. There were 32 new bills that focused on K through 12 education or school or child-related laws. So there's a lot to stay up on as board members and as cabinet. So we attended that. I was able to visit Westview when they had Randy Beard visit their school. The literacy committee brought in Randy Beard to the whole school. It was a fantastic event that I wanted to highlight where he came and I got to see him create a song. So integrating the creative arts was fantastic. I still have that song in my head. I could probably sing it. But he wrote the song with his students, and then you don't want to hear me sing, let me tell you. But thanks to the teachers at Westview, the principal there, Mr. Smith, and the literacy committee that brought him there, and excited for the kids, and they had an evening event with him as well. It was just great. And I will mention, since Mrs. Jordan is here, that I was able to work with at STAR with some of the high ability students there. I get to meet with them, and that's always a pleasure to work with them and see the wonderful things going on at STAR. Also, So I was able to serve ice cream at Vail. They had a good behavior party. The students, there's so many students with good behavior at Vail and enjoyed ice cream to celebrate. And some of the students stopped by the ice cream table to say that they're going to get it next year. And they were like, yeah, it was an incentive. They were so
Sweet. That's good.
yes. So that's any other board discussion. I know you guys had a visit.
We got the trio that got to visit. This is kind of a theme, huh? Yes. No, Melissa showed us around, and it was
catered breakfast.
yes, we had.
We
We had
donuts.
yep.
Actually commented how great the cream cheese was, and she said they used all their in-house resources.
Yeah. And Austin, you hadn't been in Star, right?
I did not,
So that
no.
was kind of fun.
Yeah.
Just
Definitely like the layout of that. Again, thank you for the food.
and I ended up posting on Facebook. I was like, "Oh, hey, went here," and one of the people that responded was just very complimentary of how you helped her out, in regards to her student teaching, and I was like, "Yep, she's a fan fave." So, yeah. And then Kim and I went over to test and helped out with Katie Belanja had put together just very interactive. It was kind of adulting 101, really, for middle schoolers, which was great to see. They were balancing their checkbooks and handling money.
They got
Money.
They got to pick jobs
Yes.
based on their GPA. They got, they were rolling dice on how many kids and if they were married or.
It was life.
The game
Yes.
of life. I got a kick out of it because I was at the table for groceries and childcare expenses, which I know a lot about. And some of them got through like diapers and formula and were just, and I'm like, this isn't even.
You're like, yeah, scratching the surface here.
You guys have kids, it's gonna be crazy, but so I thought it was just a really good exercise for them to be like, oh, because they got to make some decisions on, they hadn't gone to like the vacation table yet, and they were going to get to see if they could afford it. But
and we talked about tax returns. We talked about vet bills. We talked. There was a gamut.
Property taxes.
Property. Yes, all of the fun stuff. So the kids were extremely engaged. It was really fun to be a part of.
They got to make up stories too. I had a lot of them. They got to, or some by chance of how many kids and they would come and tell me their whole story. Like my kids' names are these. I've been married for this long, so it was just super cute. They were really engaged in doing it.
And then Celebration of Excellence. The two of us did that together and just wanted to. We've got some amazing teachers, and it was just really fun to give, accolades for them. And kudos to Shelley Swain, who is going to be representing us as Teacher of the Year at the state level. One of Melissa's, yeah. So it was just very fun to get to see her then also when we visited and see her in action. So yeah, that's all I have.
Yes, this is Teacher Appreciation Week, so our appreciation for teachers and I think educators come in many forms. So we appreciate all staff, administration, teachers, every worker and all of our schools for everything they do. And Chief Thaws, got me thinking about the education you do as well. So and how you educate students. So just everyone who educates our students, we appreciate you. Yes. Yep. Any other items? Okay.
President Butler, trustees, as for adjournment, our next business meeting will be Wednesday, May the 22nd at 5:30 right here in our boardroom, in which we will continue to celebrate RCS as well as receive and gain feedback to continue to improve. And yes, happy to appreciation.
Great.